Two? Yeah, let's go.
All right, everyone, please be seated if you aren't yet.
How's everyone's first day of CoMotion? All right, welcome to our Art of Freelance panel. We would like to welcome Desmond Du, Michael Lookhart, Wu Lu, Cynthia Bryan, Morgan Fromm, and our moderator, Christina Maloney from the Atlanta campus.
No?
Yo.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Hello.
Hello, let's do a little mic check.
Hello. Okay.
Hi.
All right, so welcome. Is everybody having a great CoMotion so far? Awesome. My name's Christina Maloney. I'm a motion media design professor. I'm visiting from the Atlanta campus. This is always such an amazing event to attend, so we're really happy to be here. And I'm super excited to introduce our panel today, which is the art of freelance. So in the spirit of lighting the way, we'll begin with an illuminating panel that brings together industry professionals with extensive experience in freelancing. All of you will gain valuable insights into navigating the competitive freelance landscape, learn strategies for overcoming challenges, and building a successful freelance career. Designed to offer practical guidance, this discussion aims to empower students considering freelancing by addressing common concerns and offering actionable advice for success in this dynamic field. No pressure. So I'm going to have our panel introduce themselves, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how long you've been freelancing and actually where you're located.
Hi, my name is Desmond Du, a motion designer and creative technologist from Diagonal Media. So I've been freelancing probably pretty much after I finished my BFA in 2019 doing motion media design, and then I kind of resumed the process after my MFA 2023. So cumulative about like 3 years, here and there with studios and clients that comes to me directly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cynthia Bryan. I'm a co-founder of Saisamaimai. I actually haven't really been professionally freelanced for a lot, but we as a studio we work with a lot of freelancers. So I'm hoping that I can provide some insight from a company perspective.
Hey guys, my name is Wu Lu. I'm an associate creative director at Hornet. I've been with the company for about a year. And previously, I was at Riot Games, and prior to that, I was at Scholar. I'm up here because I've spent my first 8 years of my career freelancing around in LA, working for probably 30-plus small studio to big brands like Apple. So I wanted to share my story, kind of like starting off as a freelancer, experiencing different work cultures, and ended up finding places that I love to work as a full-time employee. Yeah, so I'm here to share my story.
Hey guys, my name is Michael Lookhart. I'm a SCAD alum, 15 years out. I pretty much freelanced after I graduated. So after my first internship, I just started freelancing straight out. So it's been quite a ride. I've been in New York City ever since, and jobs are mostly like anything and everything. So it could be conference screens, it could be Times Square stuff, it could be broadcasts, like TV networks, motion houses. It's a lot of different stuff. So hopefully we can shed some light.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and I'm also a SCAD alumni, coming up on 10 years next year, and I have been freelancing for about 6 years now, and before that, I was actually working as a staff full-time artist with a company called Strange and Wonderful, who I was connected with by a lot of serendipitous moments here at CoMotion. So I actually wasn't sure about being on this panel at first, because I don't know if my freelance story is, you know, one of those pinnacles that we talk about, but I do have a lot to say about full-time as well.
And that's a great segue, because I actually wanted to talk, for those of you that are now full-time freelancers, what made you decide to go from full-time staff? What was the leap? How did you say, this is going to be a big change for me? Do you want to take that, Morgan?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it's strange and wonderful. When I discovered them, I was just so astonished by the work they were doing, and did not even believe in the capacity of a dream job, but knew this is it, this is where I want to work. And so to have spent a couple years there was just really integral to my success afterwards. The network that I was able to build, the reputation that I was able to build, the connections, that was all. I could not have become a freelancer without having done that. And the decision to move to freelance was not exactly something I had seen, predicted, expected, or even hoped for. I think it was just a number of a little bit unfortunate circumstances that we weren't totally able to communicate as a team about the best way to move forward. So it's actually something I've just, throughout my journey, been excited to see how to keep those types of communications more open and possible amongst the small team like that, because being in such a job that was so, you know, like I said, there is a lot of circumstances that brought us together that I often describe as luck, but that feels like doing a disservice to some type of, was it luck, was it magic, was it something bigger? I'm not sure. So that's kind of how I ended up freelancing, and yeah.
Okay, I'll do the reverse, since my story is more about like why I go from freelance to full-time. So I think, so I freelanced after I finished my MFA, and you know, it was very consistent. You know, the studios was like, you know, reaching out. It was very nice, but at one point I had a revelation about like, wow, I didn't really want this sort of life. As much as, even though I was getting jobs, I felt like, you know, work so hard, study, work, and work, study, and I feel I just want to take a break. I just want a full-time job, and then so I didn't think about it. It was my life party shift after I graduated, where I was still passionate about what I do, but it's now time to pay attention to how do I live a meaningful life, right? Is it through my relationship? Is it my developing new hobbies, and also just, you know, spending more time with friends, right, or traveling? So that was one of my main motivation, as well as the benefits, right? You know, one less thing to worry about. And as an international, because I'm originally from Singapore and I'm on an F1 visa, so it's like I don't also want, I need my STEM OPT. I want to stay longer for the 3 years. If I were to freelance, then I'll only do 1 year, and I gotta figure that STEM OPT extension thing, which is hard. So, you know, our narrative here as international students is a little bit different. I think, you know, I prioritize seeking out some sort of visa security, you know, so I can stay here in the country and not get kicked out. So this kind of, you know, makes me go for the safe, I guess what I deem the safe route.
And so for those of you that are freelancing full-time, I'd like maybe, Michael, you to talk a little bit about, like, how do you actually find those client relationships? Or any of you that have freelanced, like, when you are freelancing, you don't have the studio bringing you those clients, so how are you navigating those relationships with clients?
Okay, I'll go into this. So I need to build off the last question for just really quickly. So I didn't want to freelance when I graduated college. It chose me. I was forced into it. So I got an internship in New York at a motion studio when I graduated, and I was there 4 months, and I did want a full-time job. I was like, man, I want to be full-time. I want to learn the systems and everything. And I did not end up getting that full-time job. They were like, we don't think you're ready yet, is what they told me. And I already got my apartment in New York City. I already moved there. So I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So one of the guys at that studio recommended me to a place he worked at, which was another internship. And I said, you know what, I'll take it. Let's do a second one. So I did a second internship in the city. And after 4 months there, they actually did want to hire me. But I didn't want to work there. we the second studio was just, it was not the greatest environment. It was like 30-hour days. You wouldn't go home, and it was, back then it was just pretty intense. So luckily, or rather just through, okay, I should rephrase this. There's a high turnover at a studio for freelancers. Lots of people will come in and leave. And I made sure always to get lunch with these people or chat with them or make some sort of connection with them and get their information, their emails. I think back then we didn't have LinkedIn. It's kind of crazy to say. So we got their emails and stuff. And what ended up happening is one of them brought me on to a 9-month gig for, the screens in Times Square to animate some of the big, weird aspect ratios. And then from that job, one of those guys brought me on to another job doing like a small title sequence for a commercial project, and it just kind of ended up snowballing. So the freelance life really did kind of choose me, but more through oh yeah, your question. So references from people you work with, that's like 90% of the jobs I get. And to this day, 15 years out, it's still that way. So that's, be aggressively friendly with the people you end up working with. That's the best way I can say.
He agrees.
Yeah, that was a great point. And I think it's important for you to brand yourself correctly and really market yourself and network as much as you can. And yeah, be aggressive with reaching out. And once you get in, and I'm trying to also touch on your last question, but build a relationship where you, both parties are trusting each other. And in the end, the first full-time gig that I took, I made a decision because it felt like I was at home. Like everyone was very welcoming. It felt like we were one family trying to just make really cool stuff. Yeah, so that, so really get your foot in there and then really find the place that you feel like home and you can really trust the people around you. Yeah, that way, you're gonna inspire each other to get better, and that's the best way to learn from your peers.
Yeah, I just want to add on that a little bit from a company perspective. Actually, this dynamic, this relationship building is never one way. It's never just you reaching out to a company. From a studio perspective, I always work very closely with my producer to find the best freelancer we can bring on. And then we love working with professional freelancers, and we love working with the people we have worked before. And whenever there is a new person reach out to us, then I think the first, you would call it the break knock on the door, is always your portfolio. Like if we see a stunning portfolio and fits in the need or the project we're looking for, we immediately will call you up. Hey, can we schedule a conversation, a meeting, and a chat about your availabilities, and then how can we work together? And then I think the next step moving on from that is really about your communication, and then how your compatibility with the studio, also of course your availability, and then just things start to puzzling together, and how you kind of put yourself into their team, how you build this really dynamic, even knowing that freelancing could just be like a temporary thing on this project, but the more the relationship and the trust you can build with certain companies, and the more often they will call you back. And in our studio, we actually have permalancers. It's like a term that we call them, because they actually just working with us all the time. May not be 40 hours per week. It could be 20 hours, but they are literally on all the projects we put them on, and they are in our client meetings, client facing. They just feel like a part of our team, just not full time, but we treat them as part of the team. So that's an important perspective I want to share from a company standpoint.
Oh, yeah, I'll kind of chime in on what Cynthia said about freelancing is being of service, right? I think it's sometimes we hear the freelancer, we think of it as a role, right? But I like to joke to my friends that freelancing, it's a state of mind, you got to think about how you're of service to people, Even networking, when you're networking with people here or whatever out there, you don't want to be I want a job. but you want to think about like, how can I be of service? How can I make your job easier? And that has been the most effective thing that happened to me. You know, I once freelanced for Saatchi, and then I think at the end of the booking, the director was like, oh my God, thank you, Desmond, so much. You made my life so much easier. And that's when it clicked for me. It's like, exactly, that's what I do. I reduce the amount of problems for her. I make sure everything works. And then at one point, they really want to hire me. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't want, I just want to freelance. But so yeah, think about that. So focus on what value can you bring to the team or whoever you're talking to. And reputation plays an important role, right? I recall John Collette once walked past, my first encounter with him. He's like, branding? I'm sorry, your logo animation doesn't mean anything. Your branding doesn't mean anything. Your reputation does, you know? And that's when it started to click for me. Right, exactly. It's like what people, it's a word of mouth. As you navigate through this industry or career, you start to realize that word of mouth and your reputation matters a lot, you know. How people get jobs is because like, hey, I can't take it on. Can you take it on? Can you do this project? Or like, oh, I need your help on this, right? So your reputation is important, but you're thinking, I'm just a student. I don't have any reputation. I don't have any work. I don't have any experience. But the thing is, your reputation doesn't start after graduation. It starts right here in your academic network, right? In Momi Love, in the Momi department, in SCAD, with different majors. So you need to spend your time investing in relationships because these are your biggest assets when you graduate.
Go ahead, Morgan. No, you're good.
Yeah, just to build off of that a little bit more, I was thinking of a metaphor of full-time versus freelance, and I kind of felt like being a full-time artist is a little bit like being a physical part of some kind of creative entity, like the nose or the foot or the, I don't know, something on the inside. And being a freelancer is a little bit like being the clothes, where you are really necessary and can serve a very important purpose, a winter coat in this certain seasons, but ultimately you might go into the closet eventually, and how do you, even if you're your client's favorite t-shirt that they want to wear all the time, you're still sort of in the closet a little bit and having to constantly sell yourself as, do you want this shirt? Like, come on, somebody somewhere. Which is the challenge of being a freelancer, I think, and also sort of in relation, I was asked the question of how do you learn new things as a freelancer, and you were mentioning about, learning new things as a team it's one of the best ways to learn the new programs or tools. Or, I mean, when I was hired at Strange and Wonderful, I didn't know anything about cinematography, which is pretty shocking how that even happened. And so to be in that environment together and be a part of the entity is, to answer that question out in the crowd, I think that's one of the best ways to learn things, which doesn't explain how to learn new things as a freelancer. It's a whole, the whole marketing of yourself it's a lot more hats that you have to wear. But when you get to that point of being absolutely invaluable to a company and they're like, can we please hire you full-time? That is an unreal feeling where you're just like, no, I'm good. Put me back in the closet. I'm still looking for other things. So, everything has pros and cons, and it's always a balance.
So perhaps as some guidance to some students who are trying to figure out if this is something I might want to do after graduation, and of course, like you're saying, the reputation, but as far as the skill, would you recommend looking for generalists, position yourself as a generalist, or are you looking for specialization? And that's interesting for those of you that are full-time freelance, but then those of you that are looking for freelancers, when they are newer, what exactly would you prefer?
Yeah, I started as a generalist. It was more because I was nervous that I wouldn't get a gig if I were to just focus on like one thing only. So out of nervousness, I started calling myself as a generalist, and then whatever ask comes in, I would just say like, oh, I can do it. Even though I didn't know how to do it, then I would just like search the night before. And that was a very bad habit, but made me a person who's good at really quick at adapting and learning really fast. So yeah, luckily it worked out for me, but yeah, so that was what I did. But now I'm looking back. If you were really clear on your path, then yeah, go for it and just focus on one skill and become the best at it. Or if you're just generally or genuinely interested in many things and you're passionate about multiple things, then yeah, it's all about what you want to do. Yeah, and if you're dedicated enough to invest in all of them or just one thing and become a master. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really speak for every companies or studios, just from like our practice that we tend to bring on more specialists. I think it's because of the clarity there in in their work and the portfolio. So it's actually easier, especially for our producer, to quickly position this talent into a specific role. And we usually tend to bring on freelancers when the project is more in like a later concepting phase or production phase, that we already have like one around the concept has been approved or picked by the client, and they want to see some certain level of execution. So no matter it's illustration, 3D, or other kind of things, that we will bring the talent can executing or work on that kind of style. And so it's more like a plug into our projects. But that just from our studio practice, and we are a small studio, so it might be different for like a bigger companies, especially for tech companies, or company just have a lot more people, so they might need freelancer to be more flexible, so they can actually help from the beginning of the project.
Yeah, just to build off of that a little bit, I actually think it might be even more exacerbated in the bigger companies. Could be wrong, but it seems from my experience that often as a freelancer you get hired for what you can already do, because the companies will know that this is something that they can bring you in for, as opposed to having a more open-ended sort of set of skills or even interests. They might not know where to hire you or what exactly they're hiring you for. There might be some really lucky opportunities where they just really want you to be a part of things and learning with them. But my recommendation would be absolutely sticking with your own integrity about what you already are. If you don't know your style, your interest, your everything, and you're more in the generalist area, you might fit really well in a full-time role, because that's like a great full-time artist to have, because they'll be really versatile. And if you're already like, this is what I want to do, I know that I've got my lane, you might feel better in a freelance role, because you can market yourself as that. I know what I am, I know what you need, let's do this thing and move on. So.
Something Morgan said, is this working? Yeah, okay. Something Morgan said kind of spurred something in my mind. I found that personally for me, being not a non-generalist, so being specific, helped me get jobs with companies to start things off, because they do want to hire you for what they can see that you can do and do well, because that's what they have to pay their bills and they have to execute the job, and they know you can do it well. But I've found that after working with a client repeatedly, if you are organized and you deliver on time and you communicate well and they like you, it gives you the opportunity to come back to them and say, I want to try this new thing. Or they ask you, we really liked working with you. We know you're good at this thing, but are you good at this thing? And you're like, I could be good at that thing if you give me a bit of time. And some companies are willing to kind of bet on you because they worked with you before, even if you don't have that skill set, because they like working with you that much. So I found that's a good way to learn on the job with clients that trust you.
Building the relationships, very important.
Yeah, these are all really great points that I wish I learned when I was getting out of school. Yeah, but one pattern I noticed while doing a portfolio review is that a lot of you guys are just genuinely excited about motion design, so you have multiple interests, and in your portfolio, definitely presenting multiple things that you want to do and you've been doing in school. Think of your first phase of freelancing as like extension of your school, still searching who you are as an artist. So I know you might want to build strong client relationship right away, but also don't be afraid to keep experimenting and keep asking yourself, what do you want to do? Yeah, so that's my recommendation.
So, for all of you that have freelanced, would you say, like right now in the current landscape of studios, you're pretty much working from home? Or are you being invited in to work at the studios?
Freelancers.
Because my question is, if you are working from home, and this kind of points back to what you're doing, what happens when you want to just stay late with a group of artists and make a really cool project after hours? Like, do you still get that if you're still working from home? Or how do you continue to do that when you're not sitting next to your comrades?
Yeah, I can maybe give a little bit insight on that. We work with a lot of freelancers, but if they don't live in New York City, of course they're gonna work remotely. But if we have a lot of freelancers actually lives in the city as we are, so we actually encourage them to come into our office. That's also our first intent, to actually have a physical space, after pandemic, to have a space we can gather the team, both full-time and the freelancer together. We were actually freelancing with the recent the student graduate alumni from SCAD, and then we were meeting her in this CoMotion, and we were just talking about this Monday, just 2 days later, we're gonna meet up in the studio because we're working on a project together, and we're all in the city. We should just meet, and then we talk about and work on this. So I think for us it's not like an absolute answer, but I do think there is some benefits for as a freelancer, at least to see the people that you work with in person. Even you're not in the same city, if you find opportunities to travel there and meet them up, because it's always so much better to build a relationship in person than just on Zoom.
Okay, so pre-2020, all of my freelance jobs, or like 90% of them, were being requested to go in-house. So you're requested to go into a studio, if an agency, like a large space, a TV network, they want you there with their people. They want you working on their computers, their machines. That's how it was pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, it completely flipped, like 180. Every single freelance job was now like, we either don't need you in-house and we'll ship you a computer because we want our proprietary, nothing's shared, or we just trust you to work from your home. And I'll say that's great, but if you're just starting out, I see that's kind of scary, because how do you make relationships that way? It's harder because you're not like seeing these people face to face. I have requested certain jobs is there even a way for me to come in if I wanted to come in. So I would pick maybe a day of the week, because a lot of companies don't, if they do come in, they only come in a few days of the week now. It's like hybrid. So I'd pick a day like Wednesday, and I'd ask is there like a seat for me to bring my computer in and relax, meet you guys, meet the team. And I would do that. And then sometimes if that's not available, I would just kind of, I don't do this so much anymore because I'm not like trying to make a ton of connections as much as I used to be. But if I was new to the industry and I had to work remote, I've had people, like interns, reach out to me through Slack or through whatever channels you guys are using for the team of freelancers you're working on, if it's a team. And they'll ask for like a one-on-one for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, just to like talk with you and take your brain. And I always find that's kind of, I always say, sure, why not? Because I'm home. What else am I going to do? So I always allow that. I mean, I'm happy to do it. So try to do that if you're freelancing and you can't get into a studio. Hit people up through the Slack channels of your team.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say the same thing, but yeah, it was beautiful pre-pandemic. You can just like walk by someone's computer, even if you're not on the same project with that person, you can just say like, oh, how did you do that? And everyone's willing to share their knowledge. So yeah, to Michael's point, you have to make now extra effort and be proactive to like Slack or message this person and ask how they did it, or even as simple as, oh, can I just look at your file? Yeah, so you have to now, sadly, make an extra effort, but please be proactive and yeah, just stay curious and hungry.
I'll speak from a perspective of like, how do you keep having that creative collaboration or spirit, when you're working on freelancing. Maybe you don't have access to a group of people or like freelancers or like, people you are like kind of contracted with, but you're trying to do it amongst yourself. I think it's up to your own initiative to just invite your friends, your peer group. Say, hey, let's do like a weekly Wednesday night kind of like, let's get on a Zoom call and then we work on our personal stuff while catching up, right? And I feel like it's important to have, in a way, this is probably the best inspiration and motivation to keep doing it because you're working together, you're doing it together, right? You're creating a dialogue. I think that's what kind of helped me with. Sometimes I feel like compelled to do work, but I'm kind of like procrastinating, or I'm too tired, or I find reason not to do it. But when it's in the context of like, hey, I'm gonna like get on a call with friends and we work on our own stuff, I feel like that voice disappear. So I think keep that in mind as you get into your careers when you're trying to find you yourself can craft that space, right, to invite people, to have that creative dialogue, to work on something fun after your freelance or full-time job.
So for those of you that are freelancing, well, some of you said, I went into full-time because I wanted a little more stability. So with freelancing, not always having constant work, what advice would you give to young people when it's like, I need to start figuring out like my day rate? What tips would you give to younger people that are trying to find their footing in the industry? Maybe don't have a lot of experience just yet, but to advocate for their rates.
I can start first. I think, I'm a big fan of math. So the first thing I always advise people to just understand the gravity of the situation, because they would think like, oh, $350, oh, that's a lot, and they're like, it's so expensive. It's like, no, that's like lower tier. That's like really low rate. So ask them to list down like, all right, each month, if you're a freelancer, or imagine yourself as a business, what are your operating expenses? Your rent, your internet, your phone bills, your Adobe subscription, your Maxon license, your Vimeo Pro subscription. You start listing it down, and then you start calculating like what is your overhead, and then that will give you a perspective like how much you need to earn. And then you need to account for tax, right? So there's a 30%. Then you start to realize that, oh, $350 there, that's not a lot, But to give you a direct answer and taking a page from a School of Motion, the manifesto handbook, I think Joey Kurman recommend about $350 per day, for those that are fresh out of college. Of course, those rates, you should be flexible. Something along those lines will be good once you get out of college. And then as you advance, you start to feel as the demand increase, the demand for your skill increase, that's when you have leverage to increase your day rate.
Just to add on a little bit more accurate number and also insights from our friends from the Flavor Studio. So it's like 30% is tax, 30% is rent, and another 40% is like everything else. Your living and your subscription. Yeah, so that's like kind of the balance. You can help yourself to calculate your rates.
Also, don't be afraid to ask whoever's reaching out to you about what kind of responsibility you will have to do, because depends on what they're asking, you can also adjust your rate. And maybe, the duration of the project. You can kind of negotiate with them. And if you're looking for a long-term freelance gig, you can also give them a little bit of discount, so they can accommodate you for long-term. So there are a lot of these factors play into your day rate. But when you're first entering, there might be industry standard that you might have to follow. But from there, a lot of things factor into it. Also depends on, are you working for a motion studio, or are you going to work with like an advertisement agency or big brand? So just being very knowledgeable and just chat with your peers, like what they're charging. Everyone's going to be very honest with you. So just having more knowledge is also a great thing to do.
Building off of what Desmond said earlier, I read the same article he read from the School of Motion. I forget who it was written by, but you've mentioned it. I just Googled that. It really does give you a great breakdown of rates for like senior, middle, super senior, early. and it's still accurate. It was like written 3 years ago, I want to say, but it's still pretty accurate because I don't know, we didn't change much the rates. But I was going to say one thing I learned was in the beginning, save for the sake of saving because you don't have a gauge of how much work you're going to have, and also even down the line, it ebbs and flows. So having that lump sum of money that in your bank that you can weather the times where there is less work and you don't have to stress out about it it's invaluable. It really helps out a lot. I wanted to mention one more thing about this. I'll come back.
Okay. Yes to all of those tips and advice, and just from a slightly different perspective, when I was signing on for my full-time gig, I got really lucky that my coworker, who also went to SCAD, talked to me about my salary negotiation, which is same vein, but a little bit different than the day rate. And we had a conversation, and it was really inspiring and motivating. I asked for quite a lot, which it was founded on numbers, and it was founded on this idea that I deserved to ask for this rate in order to live where I needed to live, to have a healthy lifestyle. And so it was going really well, but then unfortunately after that, as a team, we didn't have that conversation again. And so being able to talk to our peers about this, whether it's a day rate or the internal salaries, I think is a hugely important part of these creative entities and keeping everyone sort of in equanimity and balance. And then the day rate conversation as well, after I went into becoming a freelancer, I had set my rate at what I thought was pretty high up there, and after a little bit of time working at a studio, the producer pulled me aside and said, hey, I gotta let you know, like, you're not charging enough. And it was more than I thought I would ever charge. And so when I was mentioning wanting to sort of make my life about carrying these things forward, I think keeping this, sometimes it feels so uncomfortable to talk about it, but being able to have it be an open and flexible conversation about what's going to work well for everybody, I think is super, super important for the whole team and also our ecosystem. And even outside of our industry, there's not a lot of industries that even consider having an open conversation. And I think it's going to be really healthy for lots of other industries to also start adopting that.
I remembered what I wanted to say. That was great, though.
Love it.
I remember what Wu was saying earlier about different companies will have different rates. I've noticed that too. So like broadcast is generally less. You'll make less doing broadcast TV than you would be at like a motion house, or like direct to client would probably be your most like that's where you could bill more than another job. Or I'm trying to think, what was there another one? But it does vary, and you have to, over time you'll figure this out. It's not like you're not going to know it immediately, but over time, if you freelance enough, you'll figure out what you can ask for at different companies and how much would be the correct amount. Because frankly, what happens is how my email exchanges normally go is they say, "Are you available?" And I say, "Yes, I'm available." And they say, "Okay, what's your rate?" And they don't ever offer a rate, so I have to give a rate, and I have to be like somewhat okay. And then if I'm wrong, you're never wrong, okay? But if you're too expensive, they will talk you down, or they'll tell you what they can offer you, and it's up to you at that point whether you want to take that or not. So it's a conversation. Usually, it's not too hard to navigate.
Yeah, so even with the same studio, they might all of a sudden come back to you and ask for a discount because they have this really cool project, but budget is low. Then again, going back to my earlier point, don't be afraid to ask for like brief, so you can really see and worth giving them low rate. Yeah, but also money is sensitive subject in any situation. So they might, with some studio, they might just be like, oh, we don't agree with all the industry standard that you mentioned. Then be prepared to respond back. You should have like really solid reasoning for why you're charging this much. Yeah. So you might have to have some uncomfortable conversations with companies for your rate. So yeah, be ready to chat about it.
Okay, so I just want to, I guess, in a way, summarize what I learned from them. I think, so I think basically, like the day rate thing isn't a fixed thing. You know, perhaps I think it's kind of easy thing like, oh, you charge a day rate, and it's like you have to charge that for every person you speak to. But the context will affect how much you charge, right? Like perhaps you're just fresh out of college and you're charging a day rate, and the studio is like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you're worth that much. But you can negotiate with them. So one of the trick I learned from some peers is that if a studio is challenge you on your day rate, you can say like, hey, how about the first week I charge you half price, right? If you think I'm up to it, right, I actually am my worth, then we revert back to the rate that that you pitch them to. So that's with studio booking. But I think like Michael said, sometimes like, depending on who you're speaking to, if you're working directly to the client, your day rate might be higher because you're wearing more hats. You are doing the project management, you're doing the email, you're doing the invoicing. You might work with friends and you need to manage them. You're doing design and animation and everything. So you could charge easily more than double or triple than your studio day rate. Yeah.
No, go for it.
Yeah, don't forget to think about your overtime policy.
Oh. Lots of variables. And I always think, too, that it was one of those things, because I've done a little bit of freelancing, it's like, yes, I might really want to work with you. If my rate is not what you're willing to spend, is it because it's a budget? Is it because you're trying to lowball it? And then just really decide, is this worth my time, for however long you're going to commit to it? Before we go to some audience questions in a few moments, I do want to ask, was there anything sort of looking back, or even that's happening now, that are unexpected things that as a freelancer you were like, gosh, I didn't know this was what it was going to be like, or a specific situation that just kind of threw you for a loop, and then kind of looking at how do you navigate something like that?
Yeah, remote work is not good for me. Plenty said there.
Yeah, so unexpected situation. One thing I can recall is I got a freelance gig at somewhere that I thought it was my dream company, and turns out when I went there, it was quite toxic, even though they produce amazing work. So, yeah, they might crush your dream. So, be ready to be crushed, but don't be discouraged. There are other amazing companies out there. And that's the process of finding your home. If ultimately settling down at a company is your goal, yeah, I found my home, yeah, with Hornet. So yeah, that's just the part of journey. And I learned more from working with more toxic places because I knew what to avoid, and I knew like what are the signs and symptoms, patterns. Yeah, so that's my one advice from my experience.
I can't think of anything unexpected per se. I'm sure there's tons of stuff. I'm just blanking. But one thing that I didn't expect was when you're freelance, when you're staff, you talk to your friends who are staff and they have 401ks, right? And then their 401ks get deposited automatically out of their paycheck into some fund that their company selects for them for their retirement. And I remember my second or third year of hearing this from my friends, I was like, I know I'm not going to have that. So I had to kind of go out of my own way and learn how to have there's like IRAs, and then there's a SEP IRA, which is for freelancers. I think it's self-employment pension or self-employment plan. It's stuff you can build for yourself, and it acts the same way. And I'm glad I did it early on, because I feel way more confident that when I do end up retiring, I'm like, okay, good, I can kind of be like the people who have staff-employed jobs. You have to figure that part out. That's unexpected, I think.
One of the most unexpected thing when freelancing, I think, it's more like a challenge, is hiring your friends. So you might think like, sometimes as you grow in your career, you will take on projects more than you can do, and you don't have time, and there are people that are just better than you, right? And it's very easy to think that hiring your friends will make the life easier. But yes, to a certain extent, but it's a skill. You know, you might think that you guys done schoolwork in school, and you've done schoolwork together, and it's gonna be like smooth sailing. But when you graduate and you work as freelancer, you hire your friends. You know, it's hard. You want to be nice, but you don't want to be like pushy. You know, you have expectations, but you cannot be. You gotta be respectful and stuff. So it's about, sometimes it's about balancing that expectation, right, of like what your friends can do and also like what you can, and then trying to figure out what's the best way, right? Don't. It's very easy to enforce your own expectation on them. That's what I'm trying to say, right? And you gotta know that your friends, you know, operates in different way or different speed, and it's, you know, you have to develop that skill, you know, that skill of working together in order to you know, make better work or be more efficient. Yeah, it doesn't just happen naturally.
I cannot resonate anymore with this about hiring friends, because when we started, Sasamama was really small, so we actually didn't get so many, you know, reach out emails from freelancers, and we started as creative, so we have a lot of people already friends working in the industry. We start to know them back in school, and then we just thought, oh, that would be, yeah, exactly, easier. We love each other, we're gonna work together. But it just turns out like when you're working on professional jobs, money is sensitive, feedback is sensitive, everything just become, you know, very adult, like, because you're gonna deal with these real problems that are given by your clients, or just the nature of carrying on a project. And then sometimes we were facing the situation like we still really love our friends, but I don't think we can work together anymore. And then it's like, if you hire your mom, do you fire your mom thing, you know? It's yeah, so we actually learned from those experiences, and then these days we actually try to not to hire friends. We become friends with, you know, the people we bring on to our team, and it's a much better dynamic actually. But I just really want to echo the point you bring on. It's something really unexpected that happened to us.
That's great. Go ahead.
I think I've definitely brought people onto a job who I thought would be great, and then it wasn't great. And then my client was like, do we keep them? And I was like, it's up to you. I'm sorry. But to that point, though, I have made friends along the way on jobs, and those people, I feel like it's not the best scenario, but like, or not the best example, but they became my friends, and I wanted to work with them over and over and over again because we worked so well together, and then we were friends, so that worked out. But then again, we started as coworkers, right? So maybe you're right. Maybe we're all friends are hard to hire sometimes.
Great, those are great. I would love to open it up to anyone that would love to ask a question to our panelists. And I think we're going to grab a microphone, and we see a few hands right up here.
So I'm going to say something kind of radical. And I'm going to say this from the perspective of I've been on the hiring end and I've been on the performing end of both now motion graphics and film direction. And I think that motion graphic designers are radically underpaid for the level of work that we're doing. If a $350 day is equivalent to a $1,500 day for a film director, what the hell is going on?
Questions, anyone?
Hi. So as students, we're kind of graduating and we're coming into the industry like bright-eyed and super excited to work with companies. But a couple of you have mentioned that, like, you know, I went to this dream company and it really wasn't what I expected and they were really toxic. So, like, what are kind of like the warning signs we can really look out for before we dive in head deep into a company?
Yeah, definitely late nights, and also client feedback coming in, but they're not really protecting you. Client is asking for something unreasonable, but they're just passing that note on to you and just let you figure out that's not the way to go. They should be filtering through. They should push back at first if something's unrealistic. Yeah, so those are the signs. Like, do you feel protected?
Do you find too, though, that once you start hearing about these places, the community, this is where your community comes in, that you all have these conversations, like starting to make a list?
Yeah, and the sad truth is even the rumor goes around and the company has reputation, but there are still a lot of people want to work there because of the work they do. So yeah, it's
That's a tough one.
tough one. Yeah.
Well, first off, I just wanted to comment about that comment was amazing.
I know.
Oh, love it. I have also spoken to a few people about freelancing and have recommended the Freelance Manifesto, but I've also said I do think it's a bit outdated, and it will be great when someone will rewrite the updated version of it. And I think yeah, just the value of oneself is an ongoing flexible conversation, as we discussed. And in sort of same relationship to answering that question, yeah, I think the community talking a little bit about these, sort of toxic situations, and also really valuing yourself and understanding what your own boundaries are going to be, like what are you willing to work in terms of a day. Sometimes it's an 8-hour day rate, sometimes it's a 10-hour day rate, and if they are going to ask for overtime, what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you when they're going to ask for weekend work? What does it mean when they're going to ask for changes after things had been already agreed upon, things that might, I had heard somewhere that it's okay to try to live in the mindset of never saying no, and not saying, no, I won't do that, but instead saying that we might be able to do that, but it's going to require more time, more money, or more something. And so if you don't feel safe to be able to have those flexible conversations about, like, this doesn't really feel good to me, then that would probably be a good indicator that it won't be safe. So.
I think one indicator of, like, I guess, a toxic company or culture is the communication under stress, right? If the producer or like the director are saying, I want this ASAP, it's like, oh, you have, and then they kind of assume you're gonna work overtime to get things done. And like Wu says, like, do they protect you? Do they always say yes to client? Yes, we can change that. Or do they say no? We have a deadline. It'll cost more, to do this, and so that you don't have to do work, right? So you want to see if they actually kind of like protect you, and care for you, for your welfare, right? Rather than kind of exploit you and just like, oh, you just for the work itself. And a lot of it you can kind of sense in how they kind of talk to you, be it through like messages or like, through a call. And I think most important is like, if you do see anyone pointing fingers, right? You don't want to be in a culture where everyone it's like dodging responsibility. All right, and then just pointing, oh, it's that motion designer, it's that freelancer's fault, right? That's a very big indicator of saying that, okay, this company, the people don't really, it's just all for themselves, and you don't want to be in that kind of environment.
Do we have another hand? See?
We have one over here.
Okay.
Hi. I have a kind of boring question, but I wanted to ask where y'all get help with like taxes and things, like stuff that's like not necessarily art related.
Jana, nicely done.
Thank you.
Our tax is a bit more complicated, so we work with an accountant, but I actually do recommend having a personal accountant for freelancers, because there's a lot of forms you need to get from different companies that you freelanced the last year, and some companies, they probably just not going to send you 1099, either because of an address issue or they change their system, so it's better to have a personal accountant to help you track with all the documents.
Yeah, I agree. You have to do your own bookkeeping, just keeping receipts and invoices of things that you buy, invoices you sent out. Accountant it's not very expensive. I have an accountant, it's only like $200, and he do it very fast, and I just Venmo him the money. Really casual. I expected him to be more like professional and stuff. But no, he just say, it's done. I was like, what? He saved me so much money. I was like, wait, you sure you're doing it correctly? And I calculated it because I panicked. I was like, oh my God. And then I realized he calculated correctly, and I said, oh, sorry, I trust you, you did it right. So get a good accountant, they don't cost a lot. I think for mine it's like $200, As long as you do your own bookkeeping, right? You're keeping track of your cash flow of like your profits and loss, which isn't too hard. You should rely on like an invoicing software. I use Wave. I always recommend my peers freelancing, use Wave invoicing software.
Yeah, same answer. Get an accountant. But for my case, when I was getting out of school and started freelancing, there was this accountant who was popular among motion graphics community. So that person knew a lot of like these little tricks and loopholes to benefit us. So yeah, ask someone maybe who is already in the industry and has an accountant they like. So yeah, again, like ask around.
Yeah, like I mirror the sentiment. I worked at a studio once, and their accountant would come in like once a month and talk with them. And I ended up in the elevator with him one day, and I just asked him, "Do you do personal finances too?" And there was like a motion studio, so he had to know what he was doing. And I've had him for the last 9 years. So you could just ask. You could ask one of us if you want to use our guy. Like I don't care. But to your question on taxes too, I don't use like a specific software to calculate all that stuff. What I do is I went the old school way. I have an Excel spreadsheet where every time I invoice a client, I write the client's name down, I write down the date, I invoice them, and then the amount that they invoiced. And then I have on the bottom, it calculates 30%, 30% that I would theoretically hypothetically take out at the end of the year for taxes. So I know what that number is calculated for all the jobs added up, so I know what I need to have on the side when I'm gonna be paying. It makes me feel better knowing what that number is. Yeah.
I feel really a lot better hearing that because I have also had an Excel sheet going and I thought that was not the right thing to do, but I'm glad we're in the same boat. And I also just wanted to comment on the underrated value of the local studio accountant. The accountant that was working at Strange and Wonderful was also the accountant for almost all of the studios in the area, and she happened to be the one that got me my first freelance gig, so it's all a big team.
This will be the last question.
Cool. I'm not a student, but I'm a producer, and just what I think would be helpful, can you guys give a TLDR version of the hold system and if you get a booking and someone cancels on you?
Passing the mic.
Okay, I'll try here. If I miss anything, you guys please fill me in. You said the hold system? Yeah. Okay, so the hold system is a way for the company, let's say a motion studio, I've explained this so many times, so I hope I can do this. So they have a job, or they have a hypothetical job that could happen, and they want to make sure they have talent ready to go for that job, and you're that talent. So what they would do is they'd reach out to you, and they would say, hey, can we get a hold on you? Like, we want to hold your time for this week, or these 2 weeks, and for this possible job that could happen. And then it's up to you whether you take that or not, and by accepting the hold, you are saying, okay, I'm giving my availability, I'm saying I'm available for this job, and I'm holding a spot for this job for if it happens. And if you get another client that reaches out to you that wants to book you during that same amount of time, or same period of time, you would go to the person you gave the hold to, and you would say, hey, is that job happening? You want to book me for that week? And then that job would come to you and say, you know what, we're not sure yet, we'll let you know, but they have 24 hours to give you a yes or a no, whether they book you or not. And that's how the hold system generally works. There could be first hold, second holds, third holds. It gets a bit confusing. But just know that your first hold, if you do accept your first hold, you are obligating yourself to that job. I would recommend knowing what the job is, because a lot of times you can take a hold and have no idea what you're taking a hold for. So it's good to know what you're going to be working on, I would say. Yeah, that's how the whole system works.
Yeah, so if that was clear, here are 2 tips. So there's a term called blanket hold, where studios kind of like, they don't really have project, but they just want to be covered. So they would just give you like preemptive hold, or ask for a preemptive hold. So watch out for those. It might be like way too long, or realistically too long. So, and then another tip is, I don't know if I should share this, but you can also give first hold to yourself. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
I agree with that. I wasn't sure I was going to say it. I agree with that. But if it's a place you love working at and it's the job you really want to take, then you kind of almost want to give your first hold to them because you kind of want to make sure that you're the first pick for that job. So you kind of have to choose when you're doing that.
I also wasn't sure about commenting about the first hold to the self tactic, but after a year of being a little bit confused by the hold system, that was something that I adopted for a while, and it's been a while since I've used holds. It has been a number of jobs that they just wanted to book me for a set time, and we agreed upon it, which I was very lucky to have happen, but I might be curious to revisit the holds. And in terms of having a project canceled on you, I have also never had that happen before, but I'm, contracts and getting those in place. If you are going to agree to a booking, I think you can write in a cancellation at XYZ date, and you probably have more information on that from your producer perspective. But yeah, I actually was thinking about commenting on the hold system before this panel as a note about the nature of being a creative in this career is you will come into the world that already exists, all these systems that already exist, but it's also something really beautiful to consider that you can really make it your own and say, is this really working for me or is it not? Or, can I reserve my own first hold this whole time and will it be okay? And that's something beautiful that I've discovered as a freelancer.
I totally forgot the second part of your question. Thank you for bringing it back up. When you get canceled on. So luckily, it hasn't happened that much to me, but it has happened, and it's a pretty big deal, even though it may not seem like a big deal, because sometimes a company will say, we want to book you for 2 months, like in the middle of the year. So they said the entire time building up to that job, you're telling all these clients, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't work with you, I can't work with you, I can't work with you because I'm booked these 2 months in the middle of the year. And then if a client says to you, the client that booked you says, oh no, we're canceling you with no consolidation, you now just turn down X amount of jobs for X amount of time because you thought you were booked and now you're not booked. You're essentially shit out of luck unless you can book something quickly. So like I said, it hasn't happened to me much, but the clients that respect your time, if they're gonna do that to you, especially right before the job is going to start, they'll offer you some sort of consolidation. They'll offer you maybe you can negotiate that with them, but let's say it's like 2 weeks long or a month long, they might offer you a week worth of your rate or something like that. And if they don't offer it, you are well in your rights to ask for or negotiate that with them. And I have had a client once who didn't want to pay me anything, and they booked me for over a month, and then they canceled, and I just never worked for them again. So, yeah, that's how it goes.
And I think with that, we will express much gratitude to our panelists for sharing all their insights. This was excellent. Thank you. Yeah. We could stick around for a whole nother 2 hours on the hold system if we wanted to, but I don't think we have time to discuss it. But thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you for being here. And don't go too far because we have another great panel in just a little bit. All right. Thank you. Y'all did great. Good. Yeah.
Could everybody please be seated for our behind the scenes panel?
Okay, we can just answer it. We'd like to invite Marin Hayes from Dash Studio onto the stage for behind the scenes.
Hello, hello. Let's see. Hey, that's me. I'm Marin. I'm from Dash. I'm our executive producer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about Dash, and then go through one of our projects. This dovetails really nicely from the conversation that we were just having about freelance. As a producer, one of the big things that I do is hold boundaries, or try to hold boundaries. So this is a nice, hopefully a continued conversation about that. So a little bit about me. I'm an executive producer. I've got experience in the agency world, in-house at a tech company, and now at a studio. So a few varied perspectives. I'm a proud working mom. There's my cute little kiddo, my family. And then on the side, I like to do yoga, travel, like to dabble in cooking. There's my cute little 2 dogs. Look at them, they're so cute. And then this is the reality. I just like to keep it real, a little behind the scenes in Instagram versus reality about me. That's me, a cool 15 years ago, graduating with no idea what I was gonna do. So if you're stressing, take a breath. I never imagined that I would be doing this. Didn't think I would be at an agency, didn't ever think I'd find production, and didn't think that I would be working at an animation studio in Raleigh. Being a working mom means I'm never not working. There's my cute kiddo. Look at how cute and crazy she is. And then I am almost a yoga teacher. 2 weeks from today, I will have graduated with my 200-hour YTT, which is yoga certification. So just trying to keep it real, vary it up. And that's me and my cat. He's getting in my way. So again, it just goes back to the chaos, Instagram versus reality. There's my dog. She's chaotic, getting a pup cup. So a little behind the scenes of my life. And this is our team. There's 12 of us full-time at Dash. I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, but there's a few of us in Raleigh, and then the rest are remote. Let's see if this works. Oh, no audio. Cool sounds, great music, ooh, a character. Anyway, this is our reel. We do a lot of different variety of work. So we do 2D, 3D, we do some live action work. 2D animation is kind of our bread and butter where we got started, but one of the things that we like to do is explore new styles. We talked a lot with students today about just finding what you're interested in doing and focusing on that. What's on your reel is what you're gonna get hired for. So we like to mix it up. A lot of our staff have different interests as well, so we like to see what they're interested in doing and pursue that. So this would be less awkward if there was music. Hey, we're Dash. One thing that we've done over the years, community is really important to us, hence being at events like this. I do think that being in the motion industry is just one of the coolest communities that I've ever been a part of. I'm echoing everyone on stage who said just reach out to people and ask if you can chat with them or have coffee. It's just such an amazing community that's super tight-knit. One thing we like to do is celebrate that. So we have a little event called the Dash Bash, which we put on. This will be our 3rd iteration. It's an animation and motion design conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's happening this June. So if you're in the Raleigh area or want to travel to the Raleigh area, you should. We've got producers, illustrators, directors, animators. It's 2 days of talks. It's an honest and open conversation. It's just a wonderful place, and we're proud to be able to provide space for it. And workshops. We're adding workshops. Thanks, Luke. This is kind of like our overview that we give our clients. Goes over our process. So before we start every project, we like to make sure that they know what they're getting into. We work with a variety of agencies, direct to client, and with that, there might be someone who's never done animation before, or it might be an agency. So we like to tailor our process to how our clients work. And I've got a fun little case study here. A company approached us about doing a product overview for their medical device. And so this is a product that numbs your skin before you get a shot. So like, trigger warning, I'm gonna talk about needles, if you don't like needles, sorry. But it's basically, it numbs your skin, icy. If you've got kids, if you're an adult who's afraid of needles, they wanted to show what the product could do. So we started our discovery phase. They had an inkling of an idea. They'd put a script together. So this is what we got from them when they first reached out. They sent us cute little Richard Scary characters. They were like, this is what we want it to be. Their actual device is down there on the right, so it's a little polar bear. They wanted it to look cute for kids, so it wasn't, again, it didn't scare them. And so we took that and we were like, hey, but what about 3D? Because that's just what we wanted to try. So we pitched them a 2D look and a 3D look, and luckily they signed on to the 3D look. So again, one of the things about our studio is we are pretty general in terms of the style that we do, and so we wanted to try some more character work in 3D, and so this is what we pitched to them, and luckily they signed on for it. This is what I think is one of the most important things about probably any relationship, but specifically in what we do, is just setting expectations. I think you could think about any relationship you have. If there was ever a challenge or a disagreement, it probably came down to misaligned expectations, and this happens all the time with clients. So one of the things we do, once they sign off on a scope of work, this is the immediate next step. We do a production kickoff where we talk about what did we scope, what are cost uplifts, what did we decide the deliverables are gonna be, what's the schedule look like, and what are next steps. If you have this conversation up front after the contract is signed, they can't argue with you later. If you decided it was gonna be a 60-second and that additional rounds are gonna be extra, and you've got all of that documented here, it just makes for an easier conversation later if they want to make the script longer than 60 seconds. And so this is something, they were talking about it earlier with contracts for freelancers, but documentation is just so important. And no matter where y'all end up, if you're freelance, you become your own producer. If you're working at a studio, you're working with producers. So knowing a producer mindset, even if you don't think you're gonna be a producer, is a really important perspective. So, documentation. Once we get sign off on that, we'll go through our messaging. So we'll do a 2-column script. On the left is our voiceover. On the right are our potential visuals. Typically, this is our art director, producer, and a script writer. We'll brainstorm what's the tone, what's the client trying to achieve. The fear of, no, I won't do it. I was gonna read it out. From there, we got the script approved, and so we did character sheets. We really wanted to give them a variety of options in terms of style and aesthetic. So we knew there was gonna be a doctor, we knew there was gonna be a mom and her kiddo, and then our little polar bear is our kind of mascot. So we iterated, and we iterated, and we iterated, and they picked one. From there, we did some style frame development, so wanted to get an idea of the overall aesthetic. Look at how sad she is. And so again, in any communication with the client, it's all about setting clear expectations for what we're looking for. So the clients that we were working with, it was their first time doing a video. So we wanted to be really clear when we sent something for them to review, like what are we asking them to look at? People will be really varied. They just don't like certain things. You know, design it can be what you make of it. So when you're asking for client feedback, you need to be really particular about what you're looking for. What are we asking of them? We're telling them that we can mix and match characters if they're within a style, and then our schedule. I live in a perfect world where the schedule I put at the beginning of a project stays through the end of a project. That rarely happens, but one thing I try to do to stay on top of it is put the schedule in every email like I have there, and it lets the client know when feedback is asked of them and what the next step is after that. Again, if you've got a client that's never done animation or video work, it's not going to be their forte. We want to make sure that they know what's coming next. So these were our final characters. And then we did a final color study of the doctor's office. So we played around with tints and shades and some colors. And this is where we ended up. From there, we did storyboards. We like to be really clear with our storyboards, pretty cleaned up. Again, it just helps clients who might not be creative to really visually detail what the scene looks like. What is the action? What are we describing? Again, this allows us to do that and get it locked in before we spend a lot of time on artwork. And so again, documentation. So a reminder of what we're asking feedback on. In this case, we're asking for storyboard feedback, we're asking for voiceover feedback, and we're asking for feedback on character models. It's a lot. Clients get a lot of emails, so we like to be really clear, again, expectations of what we're asking of them. So then we moved on to our modeling and rigging. Oh, those are moving. Great. Some GIFs. And then from there, we got approval on our characters before we got into motion. Client notes. This goes back to the earlier conversation. A producer should be an advocate for feedback. They should be your buffer between what the client is saying and what notes end up with the team. And so, are the notes within scope? Is it enough time for y'all to make the revisions so that you're not asking for something done ASAP? And then does the feedback make sense? Another important role that the producer has is like, I think of myself as like a translator, like client speak to the internal team and making sure that all makes sense. And then it's nice, they said something nice. So I always like to count that as like a win and make sure the team knows it. They're not always going to get that purview into conversations when the client is really happy, so I like to make sure that the team has that as well as notes. If I click on this, what's going to happen? Oh, son of a gun. All right, the fear of needles is real, but yeah, I don't know the whole script. Introducing Numb. A pain-free, anyway, you can see a cute little Band-Aid. Yay, they're so happy. She's like, what else could I do with this? I could do injections and other medical things. Ta-da! Going back to just like, if you're to take away anything from this, I think it goes back to expectations. That's within your own team, within your art director, within other animators, like making sure that that's clear. If you're on the producing side or client-facing side, expectations with clients is so imperative. And that comes down to communication and hard conversations. I think one of the things that is a hard transition out of art school into the real world is the soft skills that come with working in the field. Producing is a lot of soft skills. It's communication, again, it's clear expectations and documentation. And so I think that's something that if you're not sure how to work on that, it goes back to the mentorship conversation. Find someone that you can help get guidance on how to have hard conversations. And then I think any good producer, it's a struggle because you're looking not only at the 10,000 foot view, but the 10-foot view. I need to know what's happening in this project that's 12 weeks long, but like what's happening tomorrow, and prioritizing that, so you're needing to look for both from a really wide lens, but also narrowed. And then lastly, there is so much that happens in the gray area, and that's an uncomfortable place to be. Like feedback can be, I don't know how to handle this. And so remembering that it's not all black and white, there's gonna be some nuance to everything, and that can be a little scary, but again, it goes back to having conversations. Lastly, I would love to continue having conversations. I really enjoy talking about producing. Again, I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing, but I'm so lucky to have found it. So connect with me on LinkedIn. And then if you want to keep connecting, we have the Dash Bash in June. We've got a killer deal for students. We're able to do a student discount this year, which we've never been able to do before. This will take you to a form. You need your student ID, so we're just tracking it through a Google form. But we would love to have more students at the Bash. Again, it's a great conversation and a place to learn from the industry. And that is it. Thank you.
A round of applause for Marin again. Thank you.
And I want to give another round of applause for Scott. He's working with AV. He's coming down right now, so we'll see how fast he gets down here. He's going to fix the audio on the computer. It's an old computer, operating system. So. Should be getting here soon.
I need him to look at me. Can you text him to see if he sees the levels? It's just that it's not a lot. side block, lift, turn all the way. If I plug my desk in HDMI through the Crestron. Okay. Okay. Go ahead and whatever you guys need to do, get your presentation set up, and then whenever you're ready, just plug that back in and run back up to the booth, try one more thing. But sorry, do whatever you need to here.
Okay, so you want us to set up for the next presentation?
Yeah, just go ahead and do like you're going to.
Okay.
All right, everyone. We'd like to invite Brittany from Flavor onto the stage for the behind the scenes panel. Round of applause. Ooh, some technical difficulties. Okay.
Yeah, but we have them all on one keynote. You just connect it to the robot. Yeah, everything's good.
Oh, there we go. Of course. All right. Hey, everyone. So I'm Brittany, and I am a post-production producer at Flavor. So thank you. So Maren and I definitely did not and amazingly did coordinate our presentation. She focused on kind of client and how we communicate with them, where I actually focused more on the team and actually the behind the scenes of a specific project and kind of my role within the team and setting expectations internally. So first, who are we? We are Flavor. So we specialize in motion graphics, visual effects. Like obviously with CoMotion, we are very big in the motion, the CG world. But also with Flavor, we do a lot of visual effects, compositing, finishing, and color. So we have the graphic side of Flavor, and we also have the finish side of Flavor. So we're kind of a full-stop production house where we focus on commercial and content for kind of advertising and billboards and socials. But we're also a part of something bigger, so we are actually owned by an umbrella company, Cutter Studios. So kind of an interesting for me, and especially when I went from my last job to Flavor, I thought I was interviewing for Flavor, but I was really interviewing for Cutter Studios. So I don't only produce for motion and visual effects, I also produce for editorial. So we're starting to kind of have our producers work across the company so that our clients are just having a single stop producer and we're not having to transition producers between different parts of the process. So Cutter Studios is editorial, then we have Flavor, design, animation, CG, and color. Then we actually have another country, which is audio design and mixing. Then we have Dictionary Films, which is live action production. We all kind of work separately, but then we also work together just depending on the projects. So behind the scenes of a producer, who am I and what do I do? So the TLDR version, I look like this all the time, smashing on my computer. Producers, when you're on a meeting with them, they will almost always be looking at another email or typing, because we got a lot of different projects going on. But this differs from company to company. We manage the job, we manage the team, we also work with the client and also just like other vendors and resources. And a lot of the times, depending on what post-production company you're at, or if you're a producer at an ad agency, there can sometimes be an account team. So just depending on what company you're at, there are sometimes 2 departments, but at smaller shops, you're basically the producer and the account. And then that separation account is really like budget client focused, and the producer is more the internal process, schedules, making sure it all gets done. But for me at Flavor, I get to act as both, so I'm kind of doing the whole gamut. So what does that mean? This has a lot of words on it, and I will not read all of them, but this is just a really high-level view of the steps of a project and what I personally have to do with that. So project comes in, we get into the bidding and the scope, back and forth of negotiations, but then also like with that, what do they want, what kind of team do I need, what kind of schedule do we have, and determining all of that, what are the deliverables, what are the specs, just so we can price it properly and get the correct team for it. Then it's kicking off the team, you're meeting with your leads, making sure you have the correct resources, the correct timeline, and then as Maren was saying, the expectations with the client. What reviews are you having? What are they gonna see and when are they gonna see it? Then, during the project, just getting it done, making sure you're there for your team, the client expectations, setting review dates, getting that feedback, and then a lot of times there are added teams. So, what if you're doing a project, but you're completely stretched thin and you need a really special element that you don't have an internal team for? You'll either bring in a freelancer or you will partner with another company and actually maybe farm a shot out to another company. So then you have to manage those kind of expectations. And then there's shipping, which has a lot of specifications, a lot of deliverables. A big thing that we actually kind of mentioned in some of our things, not everything ships 16:9. Almost everything you have to make in 1:1, 9:16, 4:3, cinema version, so making sure you know all of that. And then one thing your producer will always say to you, Brad, do your timesheets, I need them for February. So please get those to me, because I have to track if I'm on budget, if I'm on time, and then I have to be able to invoice at the end of the project. So then, that's one project. Times it by 7 and then add on therapist, because projects get really, really difficult. So, your team, things get frustrating. You have to be a safe space for your team, for them to express frustrations, work through if difficult feedback comes through. As Maren was saying in her presentation, we have to be that buffer between the client and kind of filter what feedback comes through. So usually if rough feedback comes through, I meet with my leads, we kind of talk it down, we might have separate conversations, and then we'll take it to the entire team. So as of right now, I was actually looking with Brad on this, I think I'm managing 8 or 9 projects, right now currently. Cool, so now the fun part, the actual project that we'll be walking through. So this is an activation that we delivered at the end of 2023. This was for a Times Square billboard, the McDonald's Races Times Square activation. So starting off with the brief, this is actually the full brief that we got from the client. It's super short, had some screenshots in it, where basically if you know those Dunkin' Donut races at basketball games, hockey games, where you're trying to bet to see what character is gonna win and you win a coffee or something, they wanted to do that with the McDonald's Happy Meals characters, but in Times Square, and it was called Race to the New Year. So as people were in Times Square on New Year, counting down to the ball drop, seeing which McDonald's character won. So the first thing I do when we get this, the creatives know the brief, I start making a schedule. For this one, we were awarded around mid to end of October, and we had to deliver by the end of the year. So with some projects, that's a pretty fast time period. It's 6 weeks, and then you have to account in the holidays. Lots of companies, agencies are closed for the holidays, so we also had to work around that. So you'll notice in here, I have a lot of overlapping timelines where we had to be in the middle of animation before we got our style approved. So that will be one thing that I kind of talk through how our team kind of overcame that, and then like a staggering delivery, staggering approvals. So after the schedule, we get into our leads. So for this specific project, we had quite a big team on it, our executive creative director, and then we had 2 associate creative directors. A lot of you have met Brad, who's here with me, so he was kind of in charge of our production and making sure the pipeline, everyone knew what they were doing. And then we had Colby Capes, who's more of our design, kind of 2D associate creative director, and then our art director, Mac Neaton, where she gave design and color direction on basically the entire project. Then you go into the design team, what kind of stuff we needed there. We had 3D characters, so we needed modelers, riggers, lighters, all of that stuff. And then we needed a couple of generalists who could jump around, help out with 3D assets, could build 2D assets, and all of that stuff. So then for me, what does that mean for my budget? Are my leads on the box, or are they just overview? All of that kind of affects the team. When the leads are needed for client presentations, so can they also be leading other projects, or do I need them solely on this project? And then for the design artist, that's kind of when we get into those specialties of what we need and things like that. Do I have to purchase stock models? Are we making all of these from scratch? So those were all considerations that we had to go into. Okay, now the project. This is a high-level overview of all of the different assets we had. They might be a little squished, sorry about that. So you can see we had 6 characters that we had to model from scratch, texture, animate, get client approval on those, and that's like a big brand consideration when you're doing something from scratch on characters who have been in this industry for 20, 50, however many years. A lot of approval processes with characters. But then we also had to create an entire course. So not only the character approval, the style frames for the intro, but also just the physical course they were going to be running on. So then team assignments. We had a team of however many people here, can't do math, and I also want to highlight that we had 2 SCAD alumni on there, Nicole Pappas, who was president 2 years ago, I want to say, and then also our intern at the time was Dee, who was a SCAD intern and 3D modeler, where she actually helped with a lot of the environmental building of this project. And then the last thing on here, you'll see that everyone had a specific role. We kind of determined this at the beginning of the project, so everyone had a clear picture of what was their role, what are they doing, and then what were they responsible for, so that way we set those expectations at the beginning of the project to make sure no one stepped on each other's toes. And then we get to my favorite part of the project, which is spreadsheets. I love my spreadsheets, and if you want to be a producer, you will also love your spreadsheets. So with this, we just had so many different pipelines going on. We had so many different team members. And as Maren was saying, I need to know what's happening at the 10,000 foot view, but I also need to know what everyone is working on. Did Brad approve the Grimace model, or did we have feedback on Hamburglar? I needed to know where we were, so I knew what I was sending the client at the end of the week to set those expectations. So this is just something I really like to do. Love my spreadsheets, where I kind of do all this color coding and I make these progresses so that the team can input them. I ask them to update it at the end of each day so that I have a quick view of what are they doing. Then we get into the shot tracker and timing. Obviously, in the process, once we get style frames, we work on our animatic. For this, we were limited to 45 seconds per race. So we kind of built everything grayscale in Cinema. We made a shot tracker, what cameras are on there, but also for the team, because we were doing some cell animation in some shots just to plus it up a little bit. We needed to know what the frame count was. Just that was helping us estimate our render times just because of the 6-week timeline and this was like a 4,000 pixel, it was like a 4K plus resolution. Render times were kind of killing us with all these shots. So it was a way for us to figure that out, and also all of our characters had a basic run cycle, but we needed custom run cycles in specific shots, so this is where we would label that. Cool. So now we're going into the priority of the approvals. Just because of the expedited timeline, we had to figure out, okay, what do we need approved first so that we can go on to this next phase while we're still working on the design. So obviously the course design, that was like a big internal struggle actually, because we based it off Grand Central Park, or Central Park, and we were like, wanted to make it big, we wanted to include the zoo, all of these things, but you know, we only have 45 seconds and Grimace can only run so fast. So couldn't make it too big. The next was the character design, color, and walk cycle. That was actually, we were still doing the rigging and walk cycles, I think up until the second week of December, but we had to animate the races. So we just kind of used placeholders or used placeholder characters just to get the timing down. And then actually who's in the races? We had 6 characters and we locked down really early on who was in the first 2 races because we had 3, but the client didn't know who they wanted to win race 3 and they didn't tell us until December 8th. So we had to figure that out really fast. Like Grimace is the obvious choice, but you know, Birdie needed a win. So kind of getting in with the team. We had all of these ideas. We were like, oh, Fry Kid can like go on an ice skating rink. We want Birdie to fly across the course. But with all these ideas, the course kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know, the larger the course, that's more models we need. The more models we need, the more artists I need, and that means money, which I don't like to spend. So we had to make it smaller. Then for the characters, kind of like that, like the more complicated we got with the character design. There was an idea that Birdie was flying and she ran into another character and knocked him off course. But now we have intersecting geometry and intersecting characters, which means more modelers, more time rendering, more money for me, which I also don't like spending. And then, you know, then the client like kept pushing back the date. They didn't know who they wanted to win, so then that's when it had to be, I need to know by this date or we're not making our deadline, and had to put on that producer hat. So kind of the hardest thing with like these really fun projects, like the client didn't have a lot of restrictions for us. We were able to do basically whatever we wanted, like within restrictions. So we had all of these ideas, but I had to be that person who was like, that's an amazing idea. Can you get it done in time? And then like the team and I had to compromise to be like, okay, maybe we can do this because we need to get this done by Friday so that we can move on to the next thing. Cool. So now we're into staggering approvals. So the way we did that is we sent a lot of gifts, we sent a lot of walk cycles, and we just sent individual models to get approved. And then we did grayscale renders, where we used placeholder models just to get the camera shots approved, the character placement, run cycles, and just like the overall motion of the piece. So that way, when we did the final render, we were really only watching out for glitches versus, you know, redoing a shot, redoing a camera move. Cool, so now with that, I'm going to show our first animation. Go. And with this, we actually had to deliver without audio, so it was really convenient for me. Hey, and Grimace won race 1. Yeah, and a fun fact, the actual hardest approval of the process was the finish line and the podium, because McDonald's doesn't like you to do anything with their gold arches, and they really liked how we implemented it, but I think that was the hardest part, was getting them to approve how we implemented the gold arches into the piece. Cool. So great, the video is rendered, the client approved it, and now what do we do? So this is where I get started being asked a lot of questions. So where is this being delivered? Obviously this was delivered to Times Square on a billboard, so I had those specs early on, but in other aspects, like is it going to broadcast, is it going web, or is it going to socials? Because we'll have to make all of those different deliverables. Those are all different renders that we need our media team to make. If it's a non-traditional delivery, does this alter my audio specs? Do I have to deliver stereo, surround? That's everything we have to determine as well, and our audio team would have to get that to us separately. One thing in the ad industry that I didn't know until I got there was ad IDs are a thing where you have to slate everything and it needs a custom code so that when you send it to broadcast, they know they're running the right piece. So luckily for this, since it was a billboard, I didn't have to worry about that either. And then submasters, that's basically just rendering the piece without any text over it, so that way down the line, if your client wants to reuse a master, they don't have to worry about trying to composite text out of the piece. Final specifications, kind of went over that one already. And then one thing that happens at the end of the project is sometimes our clients will request working files, and typically that is another creative fee, and honestly takes a lot of time. I'm sure many of you have looked at your After Effects file and said, oh my God, what happened? I don't know where anything is. So you can't really just give that to a client. You have to take the time, clean it up, hide layers they shouldn't be messing with. So then that's a whole nother deliverable we have to think about sometimes. I think I got an email on Monday from a client where I delivered a project 8 months ago, and they said, where are the working files? So that's what I have to deal with on Tuesday. And then the drop dead ship date. Producers, this is probably a secret everyone uses. The producer usually makes a little bit of a fake ship date, knowing that we'll go over it, so then we actually hit the real ship date. So we usually try to finish things a day or two ahead of time, just so inevitably there's client feedback that comes in, you gotta redo something. If your render goes wrong, you have to re-render a scene. And then we're still not done, because that's when I need Brad to do his timesheets and get those into me. So we're approved, we have to make sure all of our files are cleaned up, they're on the server, and we go through the archiving process, writing it to tape, make sure everything's shipped. But then I have to go through and do all the billing. I have to enter into our accounting system all the billing codes, all the shipping fees for not only the design team, but the editorial team, our IO department that does all of our media, and then I have to send all of the invoices and IRQs to our accounting department, making sure that we have the PO and all of that stuff. And now we're done. And that's it. Thank you.
having us. First of all, I just wanted to say it has been an insane period of time, the last couple of days, just seeing everyone's work, responding to everyone's enthusiasm, having the opportunity just to stand by all this incredible talent that's coming out of this school. So we just want to say we're humbled and deeply impressed and so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been amazing, you guys.
Yeah, so we're going to share a little bit about ourselves and our process with you.
This is our little intro animation of who we are, builders of moving experiences. Oddfellows started 13 years ago and has grown into creating visual identities for some of the world's largest brands from a motion design background. We were much more design and animation centric, and now we've become, we've broadened our horizons into strategy and illustration systems. But we still get very excited by our animated projects, and this is CoMotion after all, so we're going to take a quick peek at some of our animation work.
Hopefully this is loud. Nope.
Loud. Louder.
Should like a clap break. No. Not cool. So hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm the head of production and one of the senior producers at Oddfellows. We've had a lot of producers up here today, and I'm honestly so excited to have seen you guys all. It's very unusual, actually, that you'll meet so many producers on stage, so shout out to everybody. As the others have said, I'm also responsible for managing operations, processes, working with our teams, and producing projects alongside our creative directors like Jarrett.
Yeah, I'm Jarrett. I am a SCAD grad. I graduated in 2008, and we had a conference much like this one in those days called Inspire. So I know what it's like to try to put this thing together a little bit. I remember making some graphics for it. But yeah, I'm a creative director. I'm responsible for leading the visual and conceptual direction of projects. I have to read this. My job description's so hard to verbalize. I'm guiding design and animation teams and ensuring that the work that we do aligns with the studio's vision, but also with our client goals. Yeah, that's it for that one.
So Jarrett and I have been working together for about 6 years now. And today we wanted to share with you one of our favorite projects that we've done together. It did seem especially fitting for a presentation to art students. So you guys may have heard of this small-time brand called Adobe. Anybody? Well, for our behind the scenes, we thought we'd talk about what it was like to make a series of videos for them as a client, which based on this no way intimidating theme of explaining creativity and using voiceover anecdotes from some legendary designers like typographer Eric Spiekerman, Eddie Opara of Pentagram, and Natalie Kershaw, who is a creative director specializing in editorial design. So no pressure, right?
Yeah, this was a bit of a dream job, I think, like as a design studio, to be asked by Adobe to make videos, a series of instructional videos about design itself. For us, it's sort of like this opportunity to kind of inspire and just spread the good word of design and kind of get at the heart of why we all do what we do. So we took it really seriously, and which weighs on you, but I think the passion was worth it and it shows, and the client put a lot of trust in us, which I think is what allowed us to be so design forward and artful with this, and they just kind of supported our ideas along the way. So this is a video series by designers, us, for designers, about the process of design. which now in the ultimate plot twist, we're presenting to you all in a panel on process, which I did not see coming. So the inception runs deep here.
So to put it briefly, our challenge was to develop a cohesive style that could do justice to a variety of topics that all of these three luminaries would speak about, whilst also taking the viewer through the basics of art and design. So we created 3 videos on the topics of type, color, and layout, as well as an accompanying package of assets that would be embedded into Adobe's homepage, the Discover homepage.
Yeah, so those are just some of the extra deliverables that were kind of extracted and used for the site. So yeah, we're gonna get into it, and to keep it brief, we're gonna look a little deeper at 2 process moments from 2 of the videos. First, we're going to show you the video. This is the video on color with Eddie Apara, and then we can dive into a scene.
What is color? I've always asked this question. Color is a challenge. It always is something that you can't fully control, even if you wanted to. Color is an inherent component of graphic design, and no color is different. No special color. It's all about the sense of what it represents and how it moves us emotionally. Dramatic reflects ideas of character, personality, mood, sense of resonance. Then you have other elements, color combinations and relationships with color, and how colors react to other colors, sense of contrast. And thus, color is a very subjective conversation. But the approach of a designer is to put that subjectivity into an objective path. Red relates to energy, enthusiasm, excitement. Yellow has a sense of being intellectual, idealism, warmth, fun. Blue has a sense of being truth, transparent, faith, and knowledge. But that depends on the context. Try not to fit. Any color is good as long as you're consistent. Context is pretty much everything. There's one little rule that I have. Start in black and white until you are comfortable to apply color. When you start in black and white, you define the clear function of what something is supposed to do. When you apply color, you enhance that function. Your client will be happier for it. The transformative elements of color are untold. The sense of joy that comes from certain radiating, energetic views, how that can transform your outlook on the day, the discovery of a combination of colors that can change the way you consider the world to be. It's intrinsic to human nature.
All right. As you just heard from our other 2 presenters, each video often starts with a script. In our case, we actually started with a recorded interview from each of these luminaries. Obviously, you could hear Eddie's voice there. This script from Eddie, from Eric, from Natalie, they were about an hour long, and that video was 2 minutes. So we had to kind of go through and edit down to a concise script, something that actually took the main key beats of what they were saying and distilling it into a place that we could tell a narrative and that meant something. Obviously, a script is a common starting point for an animated video, but this script had a uniquely challenging section where Eddie talks about how colors make you feel.
Yeah, so on the page, we're looking at something like this. Red relates to energy, enthusiasm, excitement. And we saw an interesting opportunity here to do something really simple and cohesive across all the colors he mentions. And I wanted to share this because it's just such a pure design exercise. Like this is like something that you might be assigned in your 2D design class, I imagine. Like how do you assign a design a feeling or make a design that represents a feeling? So here's a really rudimentary set of some storyboards. Our storyboards are not usually this simple, but we just knew we wanted this sequence. We knew it was going to play out really quickly. We needed these compositions to kind of hit and be simple because there were going to be a lot of them in sequence. So this is pretty basic, but we're still using our foundational design skills and design principles to get these emotions across. So those storyboards then develop into finished style frames. So here we're looking at energy. We have lots of horizontal lines, a lot of repetition. Enthusiasm. We have these expressive, playful, dynamic shapes. And there's design principles at play here that you all are familiar with, I'm sure, such as balance and movement, considering the negative space. And then excitement, shapes that are sharp, explosive, bursting. We have repetition again. We have scale, symmetry. And then the script for yellow, intellectual, idealism, warmth, fun. Again, storyboards ideating around those concepts. And this is the finished frame for intellectual. So here we're thinking about board games, puzzles, kind of like math-mindedness. It's gridded. There's repetition again, contrast, harmony. Here we have idealism. So there's kind of like these radiating rays, this sense of shining. There's symmetry to it. There's a sense of perfection. It's very balanced. And then for warmth and fun. So this one's, is it a rising sun? Is it a bouncing ball? And again, it's like, what are our design foundations? And here it's like rhythm, repetition, balance, contrast. And then blue, same thing. Being truthful, transparent, sense of faith, sense of knowledge. And then here are some storyboards for blue. Some of these did not make the cut. You know, there was definitely a process of like, does this feel blue? How is that blue? What's blue mean? We went down the whole rabbit hole. And we ended up with truthful, transparent, sense of faith. And then knowledge was maybe the most challenging. How do you represent knowledge? And we kind of just went with this abstract library of some kind. Like the idea of like understanding all of this weird stuff. Look at all those weird shapes you know things about. But again, the principles are at work here. We just had to kind of work with the client and convince them that this was the way to go. And this, you know, those could have been any number of designs. That was just what we made and what we felt good about. And I think it ended up being one of the most impactful parts of the whole piece, like sort of much to my own surprise, once that all got into the animators' hands and took on a whole new dimension from what the animators brought to it and how the transitions work. It plays through really quickly, but I just really like this sequence in this video.
Red relates to energy, enthusiasm, excitement. Yellow has a sense of being intellectual, talking about idealism, warmth, fun. Blue has a sense of being truth, transparent, faith, sense of knowledge. But that depends upon the context.
Cool. We're going to dive right into another video. This is the on-type video. So this is Eric Speakerman talking on type.
A lot of people think type is really intimidating. The reason for that is it used to be a specialist knowledge of very, very few people who took years to learn it. And now, if I put myself in the shoes of, say, my grandson who's 18, he looks at the screen and says, "Oh my God, I pulled down the menu," and then he goes all the way to the cellar. And that's only up to me. Type is very much in our minds, in our brains. We see words all the time. I mean, the biscuit packet in the morning, the package of milk, whatever we look at as typewriter, and you look at the word in a certain typeface, and there is some subliminal message there. Let me say, oh, it's sweet, or it's hard, or it's soft, but it also makes it complicated because you can use the right word and get the wrong message across, or vice versa. The context decides a lot for you already. If you think about where people may receive your message, a lot of the habits and the denominations that we use come from the method type, the leading and the sizes, and there's pixels and there's pikas and there's millimeters and there's points. There's all these things you have
Casey wants to.
Cool. I'm just going to share one little thought about this shot on this project. This After Effects comp is one of the world's great animators, Matthias Luton, and he's been doing it a long time, a super pro, and I just wanted to share this, opened his project and kind of scrolled through the timeline a bit, just to make the point, I think with most of Oddfellows, oh, what's happening now? What is it?
How long the timeline was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know how it is. You end up with like 300 layers, and that's okay. That's what the pros are doing too. That's totally normal. And that's really the art of the thing, is like going that deeply into a design, into a concept, into a design, into an animation. Like the details are kind of everything, and there's no shortcut here. There's no plugin that I mean, maybe there's a plugin. I don't think he's using a plugin. We're not even using expressions half the time. Not that that skill set's not important at all. Like keyboard shortcuts all the way. Expressions are super important. All this stuff is great, but a lot of the time it's like just brute forcing your way through moving the shapes, like just getting through the shot. He had a lot of mass to move, a lot of shapes to animate, and this is just what it takes, is a whole lot of very carefully considered keyframes. And this was a surprise to me, kind of like getting out into the industry, thinking I would come into the studio and like the magical tools would be revealed, and there would be like the god at the machine doing the thing, and it's like it's just people just like you. I mean, it is us, right? It's like people that are really creative and into art and design, working together, putting in the time. Yeah. Great. Now what? So yeah, so all these videos are about the foundational principles of design and animation, and I just like that we have this video to bring back to talk about this, because everything does really still come down to it, like even with all the bells and whistles of everything you can do with 3D and like God forbid AI, like you still need to have this really solid design and animation foundation. Like in animation, we're looking at timing, ease, anticipation, follow through, just like the basics. And I'd rather see something animated, something very, very simple animated really, really well, than something super complex and flashy that like moves weird, or just doesn't feel thought out, doesn't feel considered. So we really sweat the details, I think, at Oddfellows kind of on every level. And that's the secret. You know, it's really just the process of exploring, of iterating, of like getting lost in the work as much as you can. Obviously, production exists and deadlines exist, but just refining details, kind of getting better each time you do something new. And when people talk about trusting the process, like I do believe that statement, and this is what the process looks like. This is just a bunch of images that came out of that project. And it is like you don't know what you are making until it's done. So every project is a new exploration, no matter how seasoned you might be. It's like it's messy, it's experimental. It takes a lot of trust in your team. It takes a lot of curiosity, a lot of like, what if? Like maybe we should try. You know, I probably say that 15 times a day. Like maybe this would work, and then half the time it doesn't work. But you have to kind of take those risks and explore, and like that's how you uncover new things. And yeah, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Cool. Slack.
Have you guys seen Slack? Yeah, so this is our Slack channel for that project. Yeah, we're sharing a lot of progress, giving feedback throughout the course of the project. We're sharing a lot of whips. You know, I think one of the things that is a little bit tricky coming out of school is a lot of people they feel like they have to absolutely show their best work foot forward, or that whole it needs to be perfect before it goes in front of a creative director, because God forbid it's not, and you have to explain it. But actually, what we're really looking to do is look at whips and look early. You know, part of the collaboration process is being open to testing out a bunch of different ideas, talking it through with your creative director, and seeing what sticks. And if you don't share early, we end up in a lot of situations where we have to step it back, walk it back, lose time, and then we get into our overage land, as all of our producers here know. You know, the more we can share early and help correct course and stay in such a tight art direction as we're showcasing here, the better team collaboration we can have. As we mentioned, there's actually 3 videos in this series. Each video had a team of approximately 10 people across the board, across all the disciplines of production, storyboards, design, animation, like total of 10. And it took about 9 weeks to make each of the videos, which is amazing, right? Yeah, that's right, woo! Teamwork. I mean, I just heard that you guys put together this event branding with 40 people in like 8 weeks, or like, snaps to you guys, that was amazing. But yeah, in a studio environment, it is teamwork. Every project is a team effort. We are made up of several different types of people who are doing a variety of roles to make the production a reality. It's almost never a single effort. So I know I heard in one of the panels earlier, and this kind of stuck with me, you know, being humble and being coachable, being open to accept feedback that you might not necessarily agree with, trusting your creative team and your leadership team to be in service of the brief and to be like thinking about outcomes that might be for like a greater brief or need. These are incredible soft skills that people don't often talk about, but it changes the way you engage with the production and your hireability and desirability to continue to work with. So I wanted to echo these thoughts because, you know, all these people are sharing this work here knowing that it's not quite ready, it's not exactly their best work yet, and they're staying true to that and giving space to be collaborative. So, yeah.
You said it.
Oh. I said it all.
You said great things.
I said some of Jarrett's lines, so. Anyway. And if you remember from earlier, our legendary typographer, Eric Spiekerman, well, he actually reposted a piece on our piece on Twitter, but with this caption.
Imagine that in a thick German accent.
Do you guys think he liked our video? But it's done, and we did take his advice. Sometimes it's better done than perfect. And we go on to the next one.
Yeah, and it's never gonna be perfect. Like, we're always going for perfect, but there does come a time that the thing needs to deliver, and you gotta put your pencil down and put the work out into the world, and you're always gonna look back on it and see the things you could have done better. But you just take those forward into your next project, and you don't want to be precious about stuff and hold on to it and work on it forever and only have one portfolio piece. Yeah, just there's always another project around the corner. There's always another opportunity to try something new. So stay curious, keep going, and thank you so much, guys. This is super cool.
All right, thank you guys so much. We'd also like to bring all of the speakers from the behind the scenes panel back on stage for a short Q&A with our moderator, Brandon Sugiyama.
Hello, hello. Oh, okay. Hey, everybody. Before we jump into questions from the audience, I wanted to start things off just to warm things up. This is the first time we've got a panel with so many producers on stage. That's right. And we have a room full of students who are looking forward to their first internship or job. So my question is there anything that young creatives can do on their first internship or job that will make the producers' lives easier? What can they do to make your lives easier?
I've got one. I think one thing that we look for, I don't expect anyone to have all the answers, anyone, even us. But one thing that I really look for is if there's a challenge or a problem, it's coming with ideas. So it's like, here's what I think you might need. This might not be the fit. But just taking that initiative is something that if a producer's got a ton of stuff going on and someone else spots something like, hey, this could work, it just shows me that you're thinking ahead. And like thinking ahead of what's happening right now is just so key.
Something that Brad and I have talked about a lot in our reviews, and you guys actually mentioned during yours, is show your progress and ask questions, because you're working with a huge team. They have a lot of tricks up their sleeves that they're happy to teach, happy to show you. And if you show that progress along the way, it actually expedites the process. And you're not spending all of this downtime, especially in a remote world. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, can you walk me through this? Can we just get on a call for 20 minutes? I'm not sure how I should approach this. At least from my standpoint, a producer standpoint, it's the team communication, the collaboration, enjoy working with you, but then also it helps you not ruminate on something for so long by yourself.
Caitlin?
Hi. Yeah, I think I would echo both of what you both have said. Additionally, one of the things that we notice when we bring on interns or junior artists is there's always a feeling of imposter syndrome, right? You're working alongside artists who are more experienced or have been working in the industry for a substantially longer period of time. And the expectations of your output is not the same. And I think that's very important to know. We have a lot of junior artists who have that imposter syndrome. They're talking to artists and sharing alongside people who've been working for 10 years. And they're like, oh my God, my work is not good enough. How will it ever be? And the answer, of course, is practice, but just knowing that that is not the expectation of your output in the time that you have allotted, and then feeling confident to communicate how much time you need. This is a big one, being realistic, and if your creative director says, I need you to do X, Y, Z by end of day, and you're like, oh God, this is not gonna happen for me. That's something that you can say, and that really helps because then we can meet and realign our expectations of the output. We can bring on extra support, and we're never blaming anybody. We're never sitting back being like, well, this didn't happen because, ugh. We're trying to foster a supportive environment and make sure that the support is covered, we get what we need, and that everyone is in service of the job and the brief, so.
Awesome, thank you for your answers. Yeah, questions from the audience. Do we have any questions? Elmay's got a microphone. Questions on any of the projects that you saw? Any student that has taken my 105 class, you've seen the Speakerman video because I start every typography lesson with that one.
No way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi,
every term.
my name is Layla James. My question was, I've recently been learning more and more about being a producer and what y'all responsibilities are. And I was curious, how did y'all first realize what it meant to be a producer? And did y'all realize this would be a path you would take to get to this role?
So it was a little hard to hear. So how did we realize we wanted to be a producer, and kind of what did we learn on the job? Or could you say that again?
Yes, how did you learn what it really meant to be a producer, and what made you be like, yes, this is what I want to do, and keep going about it?
Yeah, so I'm also a SCAD alum from MOMI Club, and I actually learned really early on. My roommate decided to try producing, and I was like, cool, what's that? So I found a producer at CoMotion, went and had dinner with them and said, what do you do? And then I was fortunate enough to be able to get 2 part-time internships to try out motion design, try out production. So for me, I was able to have that experience, but for me, it was, you know, I loved designing, I loved the animation, but what I loved more was the teamwork, bringing everyone together and helping foster an environment that helped all the artists succeed that they were much more passionate about. So for me, that's like kind of how I learned it. And then when I got on the job, like still being able to be a part of these amazing projects and do that input, like being a producer is kind of like an unsung hero position. Your name isn't always on the credits, not like that, but just being able to help the team and help it bring it to fruition was really big for me.
I did a panel at the first Dash Bash, and it was a bunch of producers, and we like all talked about how we got started, and we all realized we were just like failures at other things, and I mean that in the best way, because I think one thing that's not acknowledged is like it's okay to not be good at something. Like finding out what you don't want to do is just as important as finding out what you do want to do. And just because you set down one path doesn't mean that you're stuck there. I went to school for photography, and I realized that my junior year, I didn't want to be a photographer, and that was like, oh shit. Student debt, like what am I gonna do? And I took one course on like creative project management, and I was like, I'm a type A. I'm a Virgo, I'm an only child, I can do this. So I got into an ad agency and kind of at the ground level got into like project coordination and realized that I could be a part of a creative team and not in the way that maybe I thought I would be when I started art school, but that the gratification came from bringing all these amazing, talented people together and like problem solving and seeing what they could do with the brief or the challenge. So failure's okay.
For me, I took an internship when I was in university, and I took a production internship, and I was in like a media degree, and I thought it meant art department. So I thought I was going to be fabricating. I thought I was going to be, creating sets, and then actually I was working with the producers to work on budgets and calendars, and at first I was like, this is not what I signed up for. And then similarly, not a Virgo, but the same energy, learned that actually my type A skills, my organization, my interest in working with people, with supporting artists, ended up fueling me, and I was like, oh, maybe I am in the right place, and the rest is history.
Before we go to another question for the audience, I didn't want to leave Jarrett out. Jarrett, when you're approaching design challenges, are there any unconventional sources that you draw upon for inspiration? Sorry, I led with a heavy question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of,
Or any unique techniques you use to aid in your concepting process?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer, I think only because if you look at something like Pinterest, you're going to see all manner of created media. And I think to be like transparent about where we find stuff, it is the internet. Like we are all on the computer, so we're looking at sites like that, or at Instagram, or at Arena, or whatever it might be. I think we're pulling a lot of stuff from the same places, and you start to see that in the industry at a certain point, like, oh, I know where that image came from. Like a lot of, Pinterest only has so many images, and everybody's pulling them. Beyond that, I think some of the artists we bring on kind of are a big influence to the work itself. Like they'll bring their own aesthetic, and you kind of lean into the technique or the approach of a certain artist as they come on the project. So you might have pull some mood that is something kind of like analog or tactile, and knowing like, I'm gonna work with Peter because he knows how to print things and then rescan them and like do weird scanner stuff. And I know we're gonna get to that aesthetic, so sometimes you sort of plan the output with the artist in mind.
Nice, thank you for that answer. Back to the audience, any questions out there? One in front, couple over here.
Hi, quick question. How do you guys stay organized, just in general, on projects?
How do you stay organized?
Obviously, everyone saw my spreadsheets. I love my spreadsheets. But honestly, it's a really big collaboration with the creative leads on the project. Brad specifically, like before we get into a project, he sits down with our leads and he creates a pipeline. And the leads kind of go through our process being like, hey, this is what we need to do. And then they come to me and they're like, this is how we're gonna do it, how we're gonna track it. So I kind of collaborate with them to know where we're rendering, what we have to do, who needs to be passed to what, so that we can set that expectations with the team at the beginning of the project. And then, yeah, then I just track it all in a spreadsheet, and I really enjoy that.
I was gonna say there's many different. I think one of the most overwhelming things is within a studio, and I'd be curious what y'all do, but like there's just 7 different ways to organize things. Like we use Slack, as you saw, it can get unruly. One thing I would recommend to students is like get a free Slack and play around with it, because every studio is going to use it for collaboration. But essentially we'll organize all of our brief and our links in there. We use a separate tool for our project management and time tracking. Please track your time. That's another thing you can do to help your producers. And so I think file organization, we use Dropbox. I mean, there's just a bunch of different tools, and it's probably going to be a little bit different for every studio, but I live and die by my to-do list, so just a good old sheet.
I haven't done my timesheets all year. I'm going to beg for forgiveness when I get back to the studio. Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention, we use a software called Milanote. This isn't necessarily a recommendation, but you know, some kind of visual board that you can track your shots and drop the latest render, the latest feedback. That is super helpful for just managing a project as it goes along. Every shot has a column. That column has the latest progress, that has the feedback. So we do use Milanote for that. You all should learn Figma. Everybody should learn Figma.
Shout out to Figma.
High functioning anxiety. That's my real answer.
That's the answer. Okay, that's the answer. Another question from the audience. Got a couple over here.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Hicks. I am a 2D animation major from the Atlanta campus. I'm typically pretty long-winded, so I'm going to try and make this question kind of short. First of all, thank you guys so much for coming to us. I'm sure we're all greatly appreciative of the time you're taking out of your very busy schedules. My question is mostly about how you guys manage different people, especially since, you know, not everyone is type A like we are. How do you guys make sure that you communicate with your teams while also standing effective as a leader, whether that's in your producing roles or as a creative director?
Managing people.
Okay, it's me. Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, often, as everyone's kind of talked about, a lot of us are working on multiple projects at the same time. I'm not sure how every other studio is working, but Jarrett and I are typically assigned to 3 to 4 projects at a time. And if each project has 5 to 10 people, there can be a lot of people. So that's a really great question. In our studio environment, we actually have our talent manager here today, Corey. Thank you. Corey and like a talent management role or resource management role has been highly important for the way that our studio functions, because it allows us to keep track of multiple different types of artists and make sure that everyone is assigned and working at any one time. We have regular production meetings to help make sure that our team and our freelance team are on track. And then in our environment, every project that we're working on has a dailies. We have a daily meeting every day, and we make sure to schedule it at times that the whole team can attend so everyone can see everybody's progress. We very frequently work with people across the country, but also in Europe, in Australia, in Asia. Like it's pretty intense, so we try to find a time that everyone can get on the phone together. And during that period, we check in. We check on the progress and against the schedules that the team is talking about here that we're making, and make sure everything's tracking towards those timelines. We also have milestones that I'm sure everyone's going to mention that we set up with our clients, and we are working towards meeting each of these milestones and making sure the team is along the ride. So that is my short and sweet.
Yeah, so similarly for that, and like I work with, you know, editors, assistant editors, so everyone is dealing with different clients, things like that. Definitely just like understanding your team, understanding the personalities. When I first started at Cutters and Flavor, I met with the other producers and I was like, give me the rundown on everybody, how do they like to work, and I kind of did that research beforehand, but then specifically on projects similarly, like we don't always have daily meetings, but for an internal flavor project we're working on, we have a leads meeting on Monday, then we have the creative team has a meeting on Tuesday where they brief, and we have our Slack channel where we're checking in every day, and then we have a full team meeting on Thursdays where everyone shares progress, like ask questions, go through that, so just that open communication, but then also like as the producer, like also knowing where your team is. If you know no one wants to work late, it happens. We call it admergencies, where no one is dying, but the world is on fire at the same time. Just knowing if you have a team member who is consistently working late, we try to keep an eye on that so that we can get them a comp day, especially at Flavor. Like we really value mental health and like work-life balance. So like there was a time where someone reached out to me and be like, hey, this person has been working late nights. I can tell on calls they're really stressed. We reached out to them and like we're like, hey, you have a deliverable Friday, take off Monday, like get an extra day in. So that's kind of how we try to manage it, but also like work within our project schedule.
I was just going to add one thing onto that. Being in a remote environment, it takes just so much more intentionality to do that because you're not all in the same room and everyone leaves and you see someone staying late. And so if you're working remote and you don't have to have your camera on in every meeting, like it takes, you have to intentionally check in on people to make sure that they're okay. And that's just one more thing to be aware of.
Any other questions from the audience?
I think that's all the time we have.
That is all the time we have. Well, thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you for being a part of CoMotion. Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna tell my students. See.
And then you can show, if you show my old piece, you'll be like, see, this is
Thank you all so much again. Round of applause for our panelists. We're gonna take a really short break. Please stay here for the award ceremony. All right, everyone, please be seated. We're going to begin the award ceremony.
Yeah, they're gonna start. I'll invite Adam and Emmy. We would please, hello, we would like to invite Emmy and Hazem, hosts for the award ceremony.
Is this thing on? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. I'm actually really surprised you're here up before me, and you're actually wearing the right pants this time too.
That's not funny. So anyway, we're so excited that you guys are here. Thank you so much for coming. We hope you guys had an amazing CoMotion weekend. I know we did. Yeah? Yeah. Let's go. A huge thank you to our incredible panelists and fantastic moderators for sharing their insights. That was really incredible. So let's also get a round of applause for them.
And before getting into the awards, I just wanted to thank Fatima and Andrew for letting Hazem and I take control of this showcase. It's been a treat to be on stage and entertain you all and talk to you all. It's been really fun. And I just wanted to thank my co-vice Himani and the rest of the officer team for supporting us and encouraging us to do this. And I also wanted to thank the companies for taking time out of their weekend to come and support our students and vote on this showcase.
And yeah. We're gonna keep clapping. There's gonna be a lot of clapping, guys. Just be prepared. So beyond the sentimentals, every student nominated for this showcase gave it their all, making it incredibly tough to choose just one winner for each category. But your passion and dedication to your projects have not gone unnoticed. I know we're all eager for the results, so let's just dive right in. Yeah. Okay.
And then winners, whenever your name is called, we would like to ask you to come around to our left side and just walk right through here and grab your award, shake your hand with Matt, our lovely chair, and pose for the camera. Yeah. So,
alrighty.
Let's get right into it. And first off, we have infographic design. The nominees for this category was Flavors of Indonesia by Will D. Riftian, Artemis 2 by Savitri Trivedi, and Exploration Journal by Yumi Kim. And click it. And the winner of this category is Will D. Riftian.
Wildy. Oh, there he is.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
Let's keep clapping.
Yeah.
It's too quiet. It's beautiful. We love it.
For our next category, we have short form design. And our nominees are Abe Lincoln's Speech by Morgan Anders, Truly a Short Promo by Trista Tantri, and Little Trumpet by Eleanor Matthews. And the winner is Truly a Short Promo by Trista Tantri.
Alrighty, for our next category, it is promotional design. Our nominees are
Les Occitans.
Commercial by Bhavya Tripathi. We have the NASF Wildlife Prevention PSA by Yumi Kim. And Fragments of Margella by Fernando Morales. And the winner of this category is Fernando Morales.
All right, and our next category is brand package. Our nominees are Porsche Brand Package by Dylan Roberts and Seamus O'Connor, Patagonia Brand Package by Eugene Zhu, and the Bradshaw Bunch Brand Package by Ken Su. And the winner is Eugene Zhu. Okay. Well, Matt will
Yeah.
sneak that
He'll take it.
under
It's
his
all for
coat.
you. Up next, we have title sequence design. The nominees for this one is A Little Life by Fatima Sultan, The Midnight After by Riley Ho, and They're Going to Love You by Eleanor Matthews. And the winner of this category is Riley Ho.
And our next one is going to be Immersive Concept. And our nominees are Maserati Passages by Annalise Christensen, Angie's Varda Film Festival by Nolan Acosta, and Dancing at Lugnasa by Gabriel Medina and Chris Atkinson. And the winner is Gabriel Medina and Chris Atkinson.
And Chris Atkinson, he's up there.
He's upstairs, so we're just gonna clap anyway.
Yeah.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah. They're lovely, we swear. Just gotta get through it. Okay, and finally, we have non-commercial concept for the design category. The nominees were How to Relieve Constipation by How You, Gravestone Dash by Fernandez and Keta Fulcherberger, and Mirror by Yumi Kim. And the winner of this category is How You. Woo! It was really hard to keep it together during that. I just want you to know.
All right, we are now moving into the motion category. So we're starting back off at infographic motion. Our nominees are Smile Surgery by Mingshan Su, Montessori Children's House by Eleanor Matthews, and Tatung Electric Cooker by How You. And the winner is Montessori Children's House by Eleanor Matthews.
Up next, we have short form motion. The nominees for this category was Science Channel by Robert Blaine, Jellycat by Trista Tantri, and Red Bull by Fernandez and Keta Fulcherberger. And the winner of this category is Robert Blaine.
Alrighty. Up next, we have promotional motion. Our nominees are What Do You Smell by C.U. Liu, Downtown Girl Promo by Callie Blackwood, and Women in Tech PSA by Kachen Chen. And the winner is C.U. Liu.
Up next, we have Brand Package Motion. For the nominees, we had Sports Center by Nolan Acosta and Chloe Jordan, Cartoon Network by Jeru Tong, and Breakpoint by Valentina Gilduque. And the winner for this category is Jeru Tong.
Congratulations.
We love it. Gotta go through.
All right, next up we have title sequence motion. And our nominees are 1984 by Jinkyu Kang, The Handmaid's Tale by Savitri Trivedi by Jessica Khan and Hyunjong Kim, and The Immortal by Angie Wong. And the winner is 1984 by Jinkyu. Yeah.
Cool. Up next, we have immersive motion. The nominees for this category was Aqualumina by Juan Pablo Silhi and Nolan Acosta, Fish Rave by Madison Moreau and Sammy Cernitsky, and The Imprisoned Love by Kuchen Chen. And the winner of this category is Juan Pablo Silhi and Nolan Acosta.
Aww. Congrats. So pretty. We got one more. Is that me or you? All right. And now we have non-commercial motion. Our nominees are The 4D Cube and the Five Faces by Jake Armstrong, Human 3.0 by Haikwan Zhu and Kiki, and Follow Gaia by Yuchen Huang. And the winner is Human 3.0.
And finally, we have our 3 overall awards, starting with Best in Show Sound Integration. The winner of this category is 1984 by Jinkyu.
One more time.
Run it back.
Do a little dance. Do a little dance. It's so good.
I know.
I could actually go
We
all
could
day to
go.
that. Like, I'm not even lying. Don't call me out like that.
Did you want to? Okay. I'll do all 3 of them. Up here, we have Best in Show Design. The winner of this category is Wildy Riftian.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Best in Show Motion. The winner of this category is Si-Yu Liu.
Let's play it from the top, actually. And with that, we conclude the Student Showcase winners and nominees. We'd like to thank everybody who submitted, and we'd like to call up our co-presidents up to stage for closing remarks.
As you look for it.
I know. All right, welcome back, everybody. We hope everybody had a really great convention. We want to give another congratulations to all of the Student Showcase winners for all of their hard work and dedication to the craft. It really shows.
We also want to say congratulations to our CoMotion branding team. You guys really embody the CoMotion energy and give us that indescribable CoMotion feeling. Without you guys, CoMotion isn't the same. Yao and Revi, we'd like to invite you on stage. They'd like to say a few words to you guys. Yeah.
You want to go first?
Okay. Wow. It's the day. I'm super happy. And yeah, as we wipe off for CoMotion 2025, I just want to say a huge thank you to you guys. And to my amazing team, thank you for pushing the boundaries for the late nights and for giving it you all. Hopefully, you guys can have some good sleep like now. Yeah. And as well, you can spend some quality times with your very patient pets who is wondering like where you are disappeared to. And this event wouldn't have been possible with your passion and dedication. And I am so grateful to work alongside with you. And to our speakers, guests, and everyone who joined us, thank you for coming, sharing, and learning, creating with us. CoMotion is more than just motion design. I think it's an incredible community. And let's keep it pushing, keep making, and most importantly, keep supporting us for each year. And for the CoMotion brand team, you are the best. And thank you, and see you guys for next year.
I didn't even start it yet. I just want to take a moment to thank you again for all making this conference such an incredible celebration. None of this would have been possible without each and every one of you. Over these past 2 quarters, including 1 winter break, I've had the privilege of working alongside 39 incredible artists from diverse fields and backgrounds. I've learned from the most supportive and inspiring professors of my life, and not even to mention I've made new incredible friends in the professional industry through mixers and reviews. So when I first transformed to this major, I brought a lot of questions with no answer. And I'm definitely sure that nothing gonna change after today. Tomorrow will be just another normal day. You say hi to your friend, you sleep, you work, and you stay up late. But I do believe that this weekend will leave us with something special, something that stayed with us beyond the end of the conference. And then just a new beginning, and nothing is better than stepping to a normal day tomorrow with such a meaningful start. To me, motion and design are all delight to your life, just like our theme this year, Light the Way. I hope our designs have sparked even a little inspiration to you. I hope you all enjoy this conference. Shout out to the title sequence squad, the wonderful detailed designs from our graphic design team, and our web designers, projection artists, and our lovely producers, and all the moments that made this experience unique. So once again, thank you. Don't forget to say hi to your friend. I hope you could sleep with a smile when you look back on it tonight, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We also really want to invite Momi Love advisor Brandon Sugiyama onto the stage. He has some sort of poetic speech probably about like planting seeds and how they grow and they flourish and how it's very similar to networking and very similar to his garden, something like that. So I kind of just spoiled it, but Brandon?
Unless that's not part of his script.
But you should tell everyone anyways.
You know that your students respect you when they feel comfortable enough to make fun of you. What a weekend. Each year, CoMotion is just a whirlwind of energy and ideas, conversations, and connections. In Passing the Torch, we heard about the value in asking for guidance and learning from the experience of others. In Behind the Scenes, we pulled back the curtains to explore the creative and technical challenges of professional motion design projects. And in Art of Freelance, we heard about the many different ways to shape and navigate one's own unique career path. To our students, your path here at SCAD and your path following graduation will be filled with challenges and accomplishments, excitement and frustration, which are all part of the process of learning and growing. There will be times when things are moving faster than you think you can handle, or moving slower than you had hoped. There will be unexpected bumps in the road. There will be fast lanes and detours. Just know that your progress will not be determined by a single leap nor a single fall. It will be determined by your perseverance to continue taking steps forward. There will be twists and turns. But if you continue taking steps, whether small and slow, or full-on sprints, You will end up in unexpected places, and you will meet the most interesting people along the way. There will be challenges as you venture into unknown places, but remember that you do not have to go through it alone. Remember that there are people that are willing to help light the way. You simply need to reach out and ask. However, accepting help also comes with the responsibility that when the time comes, someone will ask you for help, and it will be your responsibility to pay it forward. As others help light the way for us, we must also light the way for others. If we all work together, the world can become a brighter place for all of us. So thank you to Momi Love for creating this bright, shining light that is CoMotion. We, Momi, love you.
Thank you, Brandon. We'd like to invite our chair, Matt Van Rice.
Still backstage.
Oh, you're okay. Okay.
How am I supposed to follow that? We Momi love you? What are you doing to me, man? Typical, so typical. I'm gonna try and keep it a little less planned. So I just want to say thank you to a few really key players. Of course, thank you to Fatima and Andrew. We've worked closely together for what feels like forever. And I would like to say thank you to Kimberly Burrell Jackson, who is our department assistant. Behind the scenes, she helps myself and Andrew and Fatima and their team produce all of the kind of gritty details to get this actually happening and to navigate all of the nuances of our university. So she is a major player behind the scenes, and I'm really, really thankful for her support. Not just for this event. Honestly, I'm thankful I have an assistant because I would literally fail every day. So I also want to say thank you to all of our company representatives. We really, really appreciate having you here. We're so thankful that you spent time and money traveling here and gave all of your insights and thoughts on what's happening right now. I look forward to catching up with you in the coming months and gain more insights on how we can continue improving our program to ensure that you have junior designers from SCAD on your team. And to all of our students, thank you for being such diligent observers and thoughtful listeners. I expect to see your notes in week 10 when I return from France, so I hope you have good screenshots and or notebooks to show me. As you know, I always follow up on my assignments. No assignment is not followed up on, so expect critique as well about the quality of your notes. And then, of course, to my faculty team, thank you for everything you do. You're basically the only reason that this is working. So thank you for being amazing mentors and leaders for our students and support for me as well. So thank you to all of you.
Into the void. The success of this conference is as a result of the support of many people within the community. So we'd like to make some final remarks, say our thanks, and try really hard not to cry right now.
First, we want to thank all of the professionals we had on the panels yesterday and today. And another thank you to Carlos Lasmar, our keynote speaker, for coming to speak to everyone. Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you to our amazing 50-plus team of volunteers for sacrificing time this weekend and previous weekends in training to help us with this event.
To our broadcast operators, Chris Atkinson and Niskaya Roach, and Scott from SCAD, audio and visual team in the little booth at the back. Thank you for streaming in this event to those who couldn't make it, and for helping out with the tech and all of those details.
Big thanks to our production coordinators, Isha Malaika, Elmay White, Fernando Morales, Madison Moreau, Morgan Anders, and Maddie Jones for helping in running these 2 days smoothly. Your hard work and dedication hasn't gone unnoticed.
To our branding team, thank you for the time, effort, and passion that you've put into producing all of this stunning work. You guys are some of the most talented people we know, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you to Career and Alumni Success for supporting this event, especially for supporting the student body and ensuring we're all prepared as we step into the professional world and stand shoulder to shoulder with the beautiful professionals we have in this room right now.
Huge thanks to our department, the School of Animation and Motion, for your assistance and help in making this event come to life. We appreciate everything that you've done, not only for this event, but also what you do for us as students.
To our wonderful professors, Alessandro Impierto, Christina Maloney, Dominique Elliott, Duff Young, Eric Allen, James Gladman, Kelly Carlton, Michael Benincourt, Min Ho Shin, and Will Hyde, thank you for your guidance and constant words of encouragement. You guys remind us every day why we want to be motion designers.
A heartfelt thank you goes to Professor Brandon Sugiyama, our Momi Love advisor, for meeting with us every week leading up to this event. We couldn't have asked for a better professor to teach us how to lead and put on such a great event. We also, Momi, love you.
We want to say thank you to Kimberly Burrell Jackson, the Assistant Chair of the Motion Media Design Department, for always being there with us. You're somebody who has always supported us since the very beginning. When we sat down over a year ago and began planning for this very day, we knew we would appreciate your support.
Matt Van Rice, who's in the void, our Motion Media Design Chair and so-called Commander-in-Chief, firefighter, supreme leader, thank you for everything that you've done for us. It's been nothing but an honor to put on this event and have you by our side all along. You're our backbone, and without you, none of this could have been possible. So thank you. I hope he's hearing this. Okay.
To our officer team, Annie Thompson, Kylie Blackwood, Hassam Salama, Max Cisneros, Niskaya Roach, Seamus O'Connor, Trista Tantry, Young Yulin, you are all the best. We couldn't picture a better team when we wanted to have along our side when putting on this event. We hope to see you again in the professional field very soon. We love each and every one of you and appreciate everything you've done to help us put on such a great conference. Emi Cuddy and Himani Todi, our vice presidents, or as I like to call you guys, my sisters. Thank you guys for being there to support us both physically and emotionally, but mostly emotionally, I want to add.
Emi and Himani, our vice presidents, and more importantly, my dear friends. Thank you for always being ready to help and meeting with us every week to prepare for this event. Your time and effort does not go unnoticed. And without you, we wouldn't have been able to make this happen. All right, moving on to personal things. Okay, Andrew, you're one of the most dedicated, passionate, and most hardworking person I've met at SCAD. I'm so glad I got to work with you throughout this past year. From the very beginning, I could see how much effort you put into everything, and that commitment has been essential in the success of this event. This year has been such a roller coaster with highs and lows and unexpected challenges, but I think that what always grounded me is that we always had that mutual trust between us. I knew that no matter what challenges would arise, we'd figure out a way because we are a solid team. Thank you for working with me as a co-president. You've been there in moments of uncertainty and offered a lot of encouragement, and I honestly couldn't have asked for a better person to work with. But more importantly, thank you for being a really, really good friend. And I'm so excited to see all the amazing things that you do in the future.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm getting tactile with it.
Okay.
Hey, Fatima.
Kamani, you've got a challenge.
Oh. Hey, Fatima, I'm writing this in the bathroom, backstage, during the award ceremony. I wanted to say how much I've enjoyed putting on this convention, and I've watched you grow so much. You'll be graduating in about 2 weeks, but I want you to know you've been one of the sweetest, kindest, most empathetic, and trustworthy people I know. I really hope I'm not getting emotional on stage right now, which I kind of am. We like to call it CoMotional, by the way. I'm throwing away my script. I'm going off of it right now. I couldn't fit anything more on that paper. But thank you for everything you've done for me.
Oh, and I did prepare napkins because the script was he's gonna tear up. So.
No.
You're good. Thank you, Andrew. Oh, that is me. Okay. Let's go back to the script. All right, we're almost done. We truly hope everyone had a great convention and made some valuable connections that will continue to burn hot for years. And although this is the end of the event, it shouldn't be the end of those interactions you've had this weekend. Hopefully, those connections you've made spread not only for yourselves, but for others around you as we learn to light the way.
But you know, all convention long, we've been exploring the world of being a professional in motion design. I want to switch it up a little, and I want to give everyone a look behind the curtain. I want to invite everybody on stage for our end of event mixer. Everybody, come on up, shake some hands, make some friends, pass the torch, and light the way.
Oh, I like this. I like this.
Hey, Scott. Scott.